Ever wondered what happens when you'll get all you favorite adult fictions at one place? Yay, you heard it right! Welcome to my Patreon. Currently, we have more than 200+ stories collections. Exclusive, uncensored, 18+ fan fiction awaits you. Stories too bold for the mainstream, crafted for true fans. Dive into steamy world of Harry Potter, Naruto, and Deku. Untamed passion and raw power. Only on Patreon. Ready to unlock the secrets? Join now, link in the description.
Now, today, we are gonna see, what if Harry was raised by Lupin and Tonks? Join Patreon for early ACESS of Super Op stories, also adult and steamy Harry Potter stories too. Please subscribe this channel, because definitely I will try my best to provide a valuable content for you all. Also check the description to support the original author for this beautiful creation. It was a dull and gray December morning of the year 1981, the area was as gray as the sky and the sounds of traffic were loud. Two sharp popping sounds were not heard by the passer-bys as two people mysteriously appeared out of thin air. "This has to be the last one we go to, Dora," the man muttered. The man was mid-height with sandy-colored hair. He was dressed in a sweater and trousers underneath his blazer. He had the appearance of a scholar. "Remus, this is important. I made a promise to my cousin and I intend to keep it," the woman muttered back. The woman was smaller than the man by half a foot. She had pale brown hair and a pretty heart-shaped face. She wore a simple fleece in brown and worn-out jeans. "Dora, we have searched 53 orphanages over the past month," Remus said as they headed to a large gloomy building. "This must be the last one. We already lost our friends and Harry. And I can't lose you to this obsession of her. I promised Sirius and Juliana that if anything ever happened to them that I will take her in. Dumbledore is a fool, shoving her into some random home. The home of her mother's only relatives," Remus said softly. "And what do? They shove her in a random orphanage. They couldn't look after her, Dora. They did what they thought was best." Dora merely glared before she knocked on the door. The door opened to reveal a girl of 16, maybe 17 years. She wore simple second-hand clothes and was holding a baby with blonde tufts of hair. "Hello, I am Remus Lupin and this is my wife Dora. We had an appointment," Remus said gently. The girl smiled. "Yes, Auntie Jan told me you'd be here. I'm afraid she had to go out but she told me to show you around the baby room." "Thank you, Miss Susan Green," the girl said. "Auntie Jan, is she your actual aunt?" Dora asked as they entered the warm building. Despite the outside, the orphanage was actually rather bright in the inside. "No, we just call her that. We're very lucky. Quite a few people who had adopted had donated enough for us to decorate over the years," Susan said, noting the surprised look Dora wore. "Just last month this baby boy was abandoned on the footsteps. All he had with him was a blanket, a name, a birthday and a check of $5,000. Auntie Jan used it to buy us all Christmas presents. I helped pick them out." "Interesting," Remus commented politely. "This way then," Susan said, leading the couple up the stairs and towards a bright red door with baby room engraved on it. She opened the door to show a room painted in primary colors. In the middle was a huge playpen filled with toddlers. On the edge was various cots. Susan placed the blonde baby next to two very familiar babies. The two babies looked up at Susan. "Susie, who is that behind you?" The girl whispered, her sentence strangely advanced for a 2-year-old. "A couple looking for good little children," Susan cooed, stroking the girl's bushy brown hair. "Mooney, Dora," a voice cried. Next to the bushy-haired baby was a messy black-haired baby. The bushy-haired baby beamed. "Mooney, Dora," she squealed. Dora fell to her knees and pulled the two into her arms, tears falling down her cheeks. "Oh Harry, oh my own, what good fate. We found you, she said. "That was the baby boy that was abandoned on the footsteps," Susan said. "Harry James Potter, born on the 31st of July 1980. The girl is Hermione Black, born the 6th of September 1979. We want to take them with us," Remus said. "We knew both of their parents very well. Hermione is a cousin to Dora. We've been searching for her since her mother died last month." "Well, I'm afraid you have to wait till Auntie Jan comes back." Harry looked up at Remus, his bright green eyes filled with tears. "What about baby?" he whispered, pointing to the blonde baby. "Harry and Hermione are rather close to the baby. We're not sure what her birthday is, but she was born a good year ago, abandoned in the middle of London last year. She was found in a doorway of a pizza place. She almost died, 6 months in hospital. Then she was left here. The girl explained. We never have named her. Nothing seemed to fit. These 2 kids have taken to her like I do to Chips. Rather sweet, really. Remus and Dora looked at each other and both knew there was a good chance the baby was a witch. Her mother was probably a muggle-born, scared for her and her baby's life. Dora picked the baby up gently and looked into her large blue eyes. She could feel the baby's magic. We'll take her as well, she said firmly. The 5th of December became the day Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks Lupin reunited with their friends' children Hermione Black and Harry Potter. They were also the official parents of Luna Marlene Lupin. Remus woke up in a crowded bed. His wife, who he still can't believe married him, was curled up against him, her hair in multicolored spikes. Harry and Hermione were sprawled out all over him and little Luna was snuggled deeply into his shoulder. He had a family. Last month he was alone, 3 friends dead, 1 a traitor and their babies hidden somewhere. Dora was his girlfriend, had been since he was 17 and she 14. Their marriage was a small quick ceremony witnessed by Dora's parents and Professor McGonagall. Moony. Remus looked down to see Harry was wide awake. Hey cub, he mumbled slowly, getting up, avoiding to wake up the girls. Moony wears padfu, Harry mumbled. Remus felt a stab of pain. Sirius Black was his best friend like James Potter was. He was always there for him. He was over the top, caring and a tad arrogant. When Sirius was roughly 19 he discovered his long-term girlfriend was pregnant with his child and quickly married her. Remus was the best man. Juliana gave birth to a little girl and James was immediately named godfather. Just last month Sirius Black had betrayed Lily and James to Voldemort and killed Peter. Remus hoped that he'll rot in Azkaban. Padfoot betrayed us cub. He'll never see us again. Wormy. Wormtail has joined your mummy and daddy. Harry merely blinked and Remus went into deep thought. There you are. I knew you'd be in here. Remus was sitting in the library of the Lupin cottage, staring mournfully at his photo album. He turned to see his wife, her hair now in long blonde curls and her eyes bright emerald green. Dora, we got to give them away, Remus said. I can't raise them. I'm a werewolf. You're just starting your aura training and I thought you might say this, Dora said, sitting down beside him. I haven't told you, but I might as well. I've transferred. You're looking at Amelia Bones's new secretary. Moody was disappointed with me, but what could I do? We're going to need the money, and when you start that teaching position at the Muggle school, someone needs to keep an eye on them. Okay, so you're a secretary, but what about full moons? We leave the kids at my mum's and then head off to the Shrieking Shack. Remus gave her a small smile. What about you, Dora? You're 18, young, beautiful and smart. Are you sure you want to be settled down with an old werewolf and 3 kids that aren't your own? Dora sighed an S. He leaned in, her eyes turning back to its original midnight blue. Look at me, Remus, she whispered when he did. She spoke again. I love you, I always will. And I'm never going to leave you, even if I wanted to I couldn't, which I don't. Remus merely kept looking at her. Remember when we first made love? It was just after the full moon and James, Sirius and Peter couldn't make it. I was their and my own when the most beautiful pink wolf came up to me. Remus said. Dora smiled. And in the morning you woke up to find me still there. And I wouldn't leave you. I helped fix your wounds, and that was when we started to make love. Right there on the floor. Her hand hovered to her inner thigh. You marked me as your mate and I am proud to be yours. I shouldn't, you were still young. Not young, yo. You were 16 and haven't even done your NEWTs. But the idea of other men touching you in. Dora quickly kissed him. I wanted to, she whispered, and I will always want to. He moved in and kissed her passionately, nibbling her lips ever so gently, and his hands tangled into her hair. WHAA. They pulled apart quickly. Welcome to parenthood, Dora joked. It was Christmas night. All 3 children were curled up asleep in their brand new cots. They had to share a room, for the time being. Dora went overboard, buying each child a dozen or so presents. Now each child was clinging to a stuffed animal, dressed in bright colors, and had a fair share of toys. Remus watched over Luna. He had no idea who she was, but she was his and Dora's now. Blonde tufts and blue eyes. The small baby laid there watching him. Her arm wrapped round a stuffed wolf. Luna Lupin. What was Dora thinking, huh? He whispered, gently stroking the baby's hair. I bet you grow up to be a little heartbreaker with those big blue eyes. The baby blinked. Luna Marlene Lupin. Remus muttered. You know, Marlene was a good friend of mine. She was bright and energetic, fought for what she thought was right. She also had blonde hair and blue eyes. She tutored Dora in potions, must be one of the reasons why Dora chose that. Marlene died for what she thought was right. Died trying to stop Voldemort, and I hope that one day you do exactly what you think is right. The baby held her arms out. Daddy, she muttered tiredly. Remus never felt so happy, well apart from the times that involved Dora, of course. It had been decided, in the Lupin household, that Luna's birthday will be held on February the 1st. As the day drew closer, Remus was stressing over on what he could give his newfound daughter. Oh, relax, Remus, Joan Hill said, passing a mug of tea. Joan Hill was a work colleague who taught the 7-year-olds. She reminded him of a laid-back version of McGonagall, her dark hair tied in its uniform ponytail. I can't help it, Joan. This is my daughter's proper first birthday and I can't think of what to get her. I don't even know her well. Remus, she is an 11-month or so baby that you only have known since December. You shouldn't worry about it. Just get her some toys or something. Remus sighed. I mean, you've managed to sort Christmas out for all 3 of them. So why are you panicking over this? I knew Harry and Hermione. They were my best friend's children. I and Dora adopted Luna because it seemed right. Someone abandoned that girl on the streets when she was a newborn. She also got on fine with Harry and Hermione. Joan looked disgusted. Who on earth would abandon a newborn on the streets of London? She said, who knows, it'll remain a mystery. Look, either you just leave your wife to do the pre-sent shopping or buy the girl a doll or something. Just don't stress. The time you'll need to stress is when she's a teenager. Trust me, I know. Oh, but I thought. Joan laughed. I'm a foster mother. It helps me and Ben, Joan said. It was common knowledge that Joan couldn't have children. Well, she could, but Ben couldn't because he was infertile due to a bad case of the measles when he was in his 20s. Wow, foster mother. Primary school teacher and absolutely committed to your husband. You are saint, Remus commented. The corners of Joan's mouth twitched. I could say the same thing about you, Remus. You're devoted to teaching the 11-year-olds even though they're terrors who think they're 16. You immediately adopted 3 children and you seem to tolerate your wife's habit of dyeing her hair. I swear to God, if I dyed my hair constantly, Ben would go berserk. Remus merely smiled. February the 1st finally arrived and Remus was abruptly woken up by someone jumping on him. Wake up, Moony. We have lots to do today. Dora. He groaned. It is Saturday, the day of rest. Please leave me be, I beg of you. Tough titties, Lupin. Today is your daughter's first birthday. Why, and it's time to wake up. Dora sat firmly on his chest. Well, I can only get up if you get off of me. Maybe I want to punish you. Remus sighed and gently brushed his fingers on Dora's hip. Slowly and gently they made their way up and then he began to tickle under her arms. What? No. Remus, don't. She squealed. She began to laugh and then suddenly thump. You made me fall, you. Marauder. My dear Dora, is that supposed to insult me? Shut up. Remus grinned and picked his wife up in bridal style. My dear clumsy Dora, he whispered, where would I be without you? Well, I guess I wouldn't be in St. Mungo's so often. Once. It happened once, and it was probably one of my most embarrassing experiences of my life. What about the cupboard incident? Oh, you sneaky witch. The cupboard incident happened a few months after they started dating. Dora pushed Remus into the cupboard and began to snog him senseless. As normal as it seemed, Remus got so nervous that he just happened to Avenue his wand in his hand at the time, blew the door open and was caught by Lily, James and McGonagall, who caught Lily and James in another cupboard nearby. But you love me really? Dora said, wiggling slightly. Yes, I think I was insane at the time. Now I am mature and grown, I have realized. Oh, do shut up. That's nice telling your husband who cooks. It's not my fault that I set the kitchen on fire each time I attempt to cook. And cleans, and constantly keeps the children occupied. You won't let me near the cleaning supplies after I accidentally burned a hole in the living room floor. Bleach, and what can I say, all three of the kids are attached to you. They entered the children's room hand in hand to see Hermione sitting up looking at a picture book, Harry playing with his stuff. Stag and Luna laying there staring into space. Oh, what good babies you are, Dora gushed, picking Luna up. Happy birthday, little Lou, she said, bouncing Luna gently. Hermione, how did you get that book? I thought I left it over there on the shelf, Remus said, taking the book out of Hermione's hands. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Didn't. Did. Didn't. Did. Didn't. Remus, you are supposed to be the responsible adult, so stop arguing with a 2-year-old. Dora, I swear I left that book in the shelf. No, Moony didn't, I found it on my bed, Hermione said. Magic. Everyone turned to see Harry standing up in his cot. Hermie used magic in sleep. I saw it. Remus grinned and pulled Hermione and Harry into a 3-way hug. We'll talk about this later, but today is Luna's birthday and Remus W. as cut of by Hermione and Harry singing rather loudly. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, yo Lou, and you smell like one too. Hermione, Harry, that is not how the song end. Dora scolded. The grin she had on her face ruined the effect. Come on, Lulu, time to open your presents. Remus smiled. Today absolutely nothing can go wrong. Arabella Fig hated things that take too long, and one of those things was moving. It had taken 3 months for her to move to Surrey. She didn't want to move, but Dumbledore asked her to look out for little Harry. Everything was in place and she sat back and waited. Occasionally she offered to babysit for the Dursleys. But when they accepted, they never brought the little boy round. It became rather worrying. If the Dursleys don't have the boy, who does? Arabella Fig was sitting in her brand new living room with the Albus Dumbledore sitting on her sofa with Minerva McGonagall beside him. Her cats gently rubbing their faces against Minerva's legs. Let me get this straight, Arabella. Petunia Dursley has no idea about the whereabouts of her nephew. Dumbledore said. She won't speak of him, Headmaster, so I don't know if she does or not, Arabella said, pouring out tea. Arabella, I have told you many times to call me Albus. Dumbledore said, taking another digestive. I'm sorry, Albus, but I've always been on formal terms with you since I was a young lass. Dumbledore smiled. Arabella was only 5 when he graduated from Hogwarts. She always called him Mr. Dumbledore. And then when he was accepted as Transfiguration teacher, she called him Professor and then Headmaster. I told you, Albus, Minerva said. I told you those muggles were no good. They've dumped him in the middle of London most likely. Minnie, Arabella admonished. Nowie, ing the Dursleys, they have probably left him in an orphanage far away. Please stop snapping at the Headmaster. I'm sure Harry has been adopted by a nice family. Even so, Bella, Harry should have been iced by the Weasleys or the Bones, not some prejudiced muggle family. Dumbledore took a small sip of his tea. I shall interview the Dursleys and find Harry. Then I will consider leaving him with the Tonks. After all, Andromeda and Edward are good people and will raise him away from the fame. What about the Lupins? Minerva said, nibbling on a ginger nut. My dear Minerva, Remus is alone and jobless, I don't think. You're wrong, Albus. Remus has been a Muggle primary school teacher since January and he's been married since November. Married so quickly after all the trauma he's been through. Not a very good idea, is it? Dumbledore said. Remus married his girlfriend of 4 years. His maid for 2 years. I was one of the other witnesses. And you didn't inform me of this happy occasion. Muse and Nymphadora wanted a low-key ceremony. They then went on a search for Black's daughter. Dumbledore slammed his cup onto the table. Hermione Black was left with her mother's sister Jane for safety. Nymphadora is the girl's legal guardian. Minerva snapped, but that is not the case. We are here to find Harry. Dumbledore sighed. Yes, forgive me for my outburst, Minerva. Arabella. Dumbledore got up and transfigured his blue robes into a smart blue suite. He then transfigured Minerva's emerald green robes into a smart skirt and cardigan. Albus, I look like a grandma. Minerva said. That, my dear, is the whole point. I can't look like a grandma. I'm not even a mother. I will be seeing you soon, Arabella. Come along, Minerva, we have an appointment with the Dursleys. But I'm not a DMA, Minerva protested weakly, allowing Albus to lead her to the front door. Number 4 Privet Drive was a small and over-the-top neat house. Their garden was so neat that Minerva suspected that Mrs. Dursley spent all day working on it. Their front door was painted a cheerful blue giving, and in their driveway was the latest car. Minerva sniffed. Petunia seems to be OCD. Dumbledore smiled. You only met the woman twice. Minerva, he said softly. And both times I felt like hexing her to oblivion. She was a horrible child and she never grew up. Oh, the nerve of her. Did you know she insulted my godson on his wedding day? Minerva, I was there and I thought James handled it perfectly. Minerva merely snorted and allowed Albus to knock on the door. The door was answered by a large fat man that reminded Minerva of her old work colleague Horace. However, unlike Horace, he had the air of a selfish man that thought he was better than anyone else. Yes, he snarled. Mr. Dursley, I am Albus Dumbledore and this is my colleague Minerva McGonagall. We're here about your nephew. Nephew? I have no nephew. The man snapped. May I speak to you and your wife away from prying eyes? Dumbledore said, using Vern on Dursley's fear of looking bad against him. Yeah, come on in, he said roughly, allowing them into the house. He showed them into the living room, which was covered in pictures of a fat baby boy. Near the window the said fat baby boy was playing in a playpen. Petunia Dursley entered the room. She took one look at Dumbledore and McGonagall and threw the nearest picture frame at their heads. You disgusting freaks. Coming into my home, she snarled. Mrs. Dursley, please calm down, we are here to discuss your nephew's welfare. That little freak. Vernon got rid of him. We couldn't afford having our little Duddykins getting infected by that freakiness. Why, you little. Minerva, please calm down, Dumbledore said, holding Minerva by the shoulders in fear. She'll hex the woman. What did you do to the boy? Minerva shouted, struggling to get out of Dumbledore's grasp. Vernon left him at an orphanage. Costed us $5,000, but it means they won't give him back. We promised them another $2,000 if they got him adopted. And they did. The woman looked disgusted at the idea of giving money to an orphanage. Which one, Petunia? Dumbledore said. I'm not quite sure. You'd have to ask Vernon, the woman sighed. She blinked and then remembered what they were. She instantly threw a vase at them. Get out, she snarled. They were now outside of a gloomy orphanage in a busy street not that far from Surrey. It looks horrible, Albus, Minerva whispered. Minerva dear, I have learned a long time ago to never judge a book by its front cover. Now let's find Harry and not worry about the outside. Albus led her to the front door and knocked. The door was answered by a teenage girl. Hello, Miss Susan. Susan Green. The girl said politely. We weren't expecting anyone, so please don't mind the mess. Not to worry, Miss Green. We work in a school that's constantly messy, Dumbledore said cheerfully. The girl smiled. Follow me, please. Auntie Jan is a bit busy with the 5 to 6 year olds. The girl led them down a bright hallway to a large, messy living room where children sat watching the TV. Hey kids, move over and let this people sit on the sofa while they're waiting for Auntie Jan, Susan said cheerfully. The children on the sofa groaned but moved instantly. Dumbledore and Minerva sat down and the children watched them. Excuse me, sir, a boy said no older than 8. Are you a wizard? Minerva choked. What gave you that idea? My dear boy, Dumbledore said cheerfully. You look like Merlin, the boy whispered. Minerva attempted to smother her giggles. I am honored that you think so. Now children, would you like some lemon drops? The children nodded. Dumbledore reached into his pocket and pulled out a large pouch. Share these with each other. Wow, how did you fit that in your pocket? The boy asked. A magician never reveals his secrets, young man. Hem. Dumbledore and Minerva turned to see a plump woman with chestnut brown locks and bright blue eyes. She was smiling down at the children. You better save those lemon drops for putting my sugar plums. Her voice was loud and booming. Yes, Auntie Jan, the children chorused. Good. Auntie Jan said. She beamed at Dumbledore. Hello, I'm Jan Davidson, matron of this orphanage. Are you looking to adopt? Alas, no, we're here for a relative of mine that might have been abandoned by their mother, Dumbledore said. Oh, you mean the little blonde babe? Such a sweetie that girl was. I'm sorry, but she's been adopted. No, I mean Harry Potter. I'm his grandfather and I wish to have custody of him. Auntie Jan smiled sadly. I'm afraid he's been adopted too. Lovely couple they were. They adopted not only him, but the blonde babe I told you about and another little baby. Could you please tell me who adopted him? I just want to see him. Auntie Jan smiled. Well, in that case I can. Strange names they had, but lovely people. Remus and Nymphadora Lupin I believe were their names. The Lupin cottage looked like one of those old-fashioned, small cottages you see out in the countryside. Yes, the Lupin cottage is in the countryside with a small village nearby. In the front garden it was messy and filled with wild roses and tulips. The front door had a wolf knocker. Dumbledore laughed when he saw it. Ah, I remember when John was a child. He told me that they had a wolf knocker due to their surname. I find it amusing that Remus still has it. Minerva rolled her eyes. Yes, the irony of it has me in stitches, she said sarcastically as she knocked the door. We're out in the back, a woman's voice shouted. Gates unlocked. Dumbledore in. Minerva shrugged and headed to the back gate. They opened it to see a small messy black-haired boy flying merrily on his toy broom, a bushy-haired girl looking at a picture book and a small blonde girl sitting in a woman's lap. The woman had messy pink hair and was watching the boy fly. Nymphadora, Dumbledore said. Don't call me that, it's Dora now, she said looking up at them. I was wondering when you'll come and visit. Or were you just going to leave Harry and Hermione with their aunts and never check in on them? Nymphadora, I left Hermione with Jane because she was her remaining relative. And what about Sirius's family? I or Mum could have raised her. The Malfoys wouldn't, but we would have. Sirius is a traitor, but I'm not. Or do you think I'll go down that slippery path as my cousin? Nymphadora, I did what I thought was best. And the fact in Juliana's and Sirius' legal note that I was to take care of Hermione not Jane was ignored because. Dumbledore sighed. The Ministry I ignored any legal will or note of Sirius Black. I had no idea that Hermione was to go to you and thought best of her to grow up away from a world that thinks her father is scum. Jane Granger is a fine woman and her husband is a good man, but they couldn't cope having a child to raise. They left her in a descent orphanage where she was adopted by her legal guardian, and if you're trying to take her away from me, Dumbledore, I will hex you to America. Nymphadora, I am not here to take Hermione away. I am here to discuss Harry. Harry is not leaving either. I have legal rights now. I was here to convince you and Remus to go under the Fidelius charm, Dumbledore said, losing his patience. Where is Remus anyway? It's Monday. He'll be at work. Listen to me, Dumbledore. I and Remus rarely go into the magical world these days. Yes, I am Amelia Bones's secretary, but I only work Wednesday, Thursday and Fridays. My mother takes care of the kids, and when it's a full moon we leave them with my mother and go to the Shrieking Shack. So please leave us alone. The wards on the Lupin cottage will protect us. Why do you have wards on? Dumbledore asked. Because we're protecting ourselves from anti-werewolf fanatics. Now please leave. Your daughter. What is her name? Minerva said for the first time. Luna Marlene Lupin. Dora said. The child looked up as if to say. Yes. Minerva chuckled. The IRO.NY in it all. She said. I would like to visit them sometime, Dora. You're welcome to Minerva, and so is the headmaster, Dora said, her fingers gently stroking Luna's hair and her own hair slowly turning blonde to match. The children will need tutoring and other children to play with. Minerva commented. We'll send them to a Muggle school. However, we are lacking room in the cottage. When they are older we might move. Any good ideas where to? Street. Ottercree. The Weasleys live there with their 7 children, and the Diggories with their son. The Fackwets live nearby with their daughter. The Lovegood Odds live there too, but they have no children. They were looking into adoption though. Minerva said. Dora nodded. Shall I see you out? She asked. No need, child, no need. Both Minerva and Dumbledore disappeared with a pop. Chapter 6. 2 happy years have passed through the Lupin cottage, and the children had grown from young babies to toddlers. Harry had taken a great interest in Quidditch and animals, begging constantly for his own pet. Hermione had a huge interest in books and read not only picture books but the comics in the newspapers. Little Luna had taken a great interest, as most girls do, into dolls. It was September and Harry and Hermione were due to start school. Dora dressed them in smart gray trousers, Harry, or a gray skirt, Hermione, with a bottle green jumper with the school logo on it. I can't believe it. My little niece and nephew going to Muggle school. Now you know the rules, no telling anyone of our world and to listen to the teachers. The two nodded. Dora passed the Two little plastic boxes, one in blue and one in pink. Blue for Harry and pink for you, my own. I slipped in a little treat in there. Don't tell Uncle Mooney, he'll go ballistic even though he has his own chocolate obsession. The children giggled. Lou, sweetie, time to get into the buggy, Dora said to the blonde girl sitting in her high chair. No, Lulu stays here, the girl said. Luna, Dora said warningly. Luna sighed and opened her arms for her mother to pick her up. Dora and Remus always found it strange that the girl understood the situation. Good girl, maybe on the way home we'll buy a treat for us, yeah. Lulu wants to see piggies. Dora laughed. Nearby was an old-fashioned farm. Harry loved going there, and the family that owns it loves the Lupin family's company. I don't know if Farmer Morris will have time, Lou. Maybe on Saturday. How about we? She paused and whispered in the girl's ear. Yes, Mummy, Luna said, smiling serenely. She scares me when she does that, Hermione whispered to Harry. Harry only grinned back. The day went fast. Hermione impressed the teacher with how quickly she learned things. While the other children were struggling to read a simple word, she was reading full sentences. Harry also impressed the teachers, but in a different way. A young boy with dark hair was being bullied, and Harry stood up to them, defending the young boy and befriending him. Justin Finch Fletchley, he was called. The young boy was spending the year with his aunt while his parents were in America doing business. That day soon turned into a week, then a month, before the Lupin Black Potter household knew it. It was Halloween. Every Halloween they would go to Godric's Hollow to visit the Potters and Juliana's grave. They would then have tea with Bathilda Bagshot, a local historian. For the third time this week, Remus Lupin was woken by the delightful sounds of his wife puking. Dora, love, he groaned. Remus, she whispered. Remus staggered out of their bed and picked up the trembling pale woman. Maybe you shouldn't come out with us, he murmured. No, I want to pay my respects to my cousin's wife and the Potters, she said. It's probably just a stomach bug, it'll pass in time. Honey, you look terrible, Remus said. Dora grinned weakly. Always the flatterer. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Soon her pale skin turned into a rosy color, her pale brown hair a deep black that landed onto her shoulder. When she opened her eyes they were as green as Harry's. How do I look? She said. Beautiful, Remus said, but how do you feel? Dora blinked. I feel fine, and maybe it's a passing thing. Remus sighed. I'll get the kids ready then. Luna sat there staring at her mother's stomach as her mother picked out her clothes. Baby, she murmured. Dora smiled. Yes, darling, yo. No, you have a baby, Luna said. Lulu, sweetie, you are my baby, a new baby. Dora sighed. Wouldn't having Hermione and Harry be enough for Luna? Now she wants to have a baby brother or sister. She reached out and dressed the baby in her best blue dress and brushed her hair into little pigtails. Harry and Hermione were also dressed in their best, pretending to listen to Remus's lecture on best behavior. Love, I think they know that by heart, Dora said, and they do behave. They didn't last year. One of them put the stink bomb in Bathilda's teapot. Dora, really, you are supposed to be the adult. But she's boring. The only reason we go there every year is because she's James's great-aunt, thus Harry's only relative on his father's side. Remus rolled his eyes and picked up a toy pumpkin. Grab hold. Everyone. When everyone had a finger on it, he whispered, Happy Halloween. There was a tug at his navel, and soon Remus found himself beneath his family in Godric's Hollow. They stood beside Juliana's grave, laying down a small bouquet of white roses, Juliana's favorite. The gravestone was a simple granite block with the following words engraved upon it. Juliana Emily Black, beloved mother, wife, sister and friend, 5th April 1960 to the 30th of October 1981. May the angels keep her safe. Hermione kissed the stone. Hello, Mummy, she whispered. I'm going to school now. Me and Harry have a friend called Justin, and I'm now learning about sums. See you next year, Mummy, she said quickly, running off just like Harry did when he was round his parents' grave. Poor kids, Dora whispered. Her hand grazed Juliana's grave. Hey Jules, I did what I promised, took in little Myone, she's growing up to be a good kid. She loves books so much that it's annoying, I reckon. She'll be just like you when she gets to Hogwarts. We miss you. There was a slight breeze and the world began to spin. Slowly the world grew dark and Dora knew no more. Remus placed a cool flannel over his wife's forehead, tucking her hair behind her ears. The healer will be here soon, Bathilda said calmly, placing a tray on the bedside. Remus spared a quick glance of the tea and biscuits. Luna, Harry and Hermione are playing outside. Thank you, Bathilda, Remus said. Oh, it's nothing, dear. I remember the days when James, Sirius and what was her name again? The young girl that lived with the Pruitts. She was only a year younger than you. Remus smiled. Melanie Warwick, he said. She was Mrs. Pruitt's niece. A Gryffindor to the end, though she had her Slytherin moments too. Bathilda chuckled. What is she up to nowadays? I haven't heard of her since the Pruitt twins died. Remus smiled sadly, thinking of Fabian and Gideon. They brought laughter to the dark meetings of the Order. Melanie is an Auror now. She was taught by Mad Eye himself. He claims she's one of the best. There was a gentle ringing sound coming from downstairs. Ah, that must be the healer, Bathilda said. We're upstairs, please come up, she shouted. There was a thundering sound of footsteps and Andromeda Tonks burst through the door. What happened? Are the children all right? She said, dropping her medical bag onto the floor, and rushed to Dora's side. I think she may have the flu, Remus said softly. She's been vomiting every morning 3 days straight and she's been rather pale. Remus dear, do you and Dora have sexual intercourse on a regular basis? Bathilda asked. Remus went bright red. There was spluttering coming from Dora. I pass out and when I wake up Batty Bagshot is asking about my sex life, she said weakly. Nymphadora, how many times have I told you to be polite? What example are you setting the children? Anyway, Bathilda has just made a good point. You what? Well, there might be a good chance Hat you're pregnant, Dora. Dora laughed. Very good, mother, it's probably just a stomach bug. We'll see about that, Andromeda said smiling. She waved her wand and murmured a few words. Suddenly Dora's stomach glowed a bright blue. Oh, Dora, congratulations. Remus and Dora sat there frozen. Baby, Dora said. My own baby, Remus's baby. Well, I certainly hoped it'll be mine, Remus joked, unless. There's something you're not telling me, Dora. Well, Farmer Morris is very good looking. I'm sure he is. Remus pulled Dora into an embrace. Oh, Dora. We're having a baby. Dora nuzzled into Remus's neck, taking in his smell. Their own baby. Not a friend's, or a cousin's, or a random stranger's, but their own. Author's note. Please review and please check out my challenge on my profile. Thank you. Chapter 7. The hardest thing to do when you're pregnant is to tell your adopted children that you're pregnant. Dora thought to herself as she sat the 3 children down. It was bonfire night, and Remus was out getting fireworks, leaving Dora to tell the children. Auntie Dora, Hermione said, pulling Dora out of her string of thoughts. The little girl had her hair tamed into 2 braids, making her face look bigger. Sorry, I was in a dream, Dora said. Now I have something to tell you, something important. It'll change our lives quite a bit. Harry tilted his head and frowned, as Hermione getting glasses too. Damn, I forgot I used that to announce that Harry was going to wear glasses. Dora laughed weakly. No, sweetheart, bigger than that. We're getting a doggy, Luna said. This is not working. Why couldn't Remus be the one to tell them? Dora sighed. No, we're not getting any pets at all. Surely with me turning into a wolf any moment is enough. Not really, we can't exactly take you to show a ND tell like we could with a cat, Hermione said. We won't get a cat but a doggy, Luna said. A cat is better. Doggy? Nah, an owl. Now I started them on an argument. The children continued to argue until Dora whirled round and bashed her head against the wall. Auntie Dora, you shouldn't do that. You'll hurt yourself, Harry said worriedly. Dora rested her back against the wall and smiled weakly to Harry. Sorry, Prongslet, but what I'm trying to tell you 3 is that you'll be having a baby brother or sister in 8 months. The 3 kids started to jump up and down, squealing. I hope it's a brother. I don't want to be the only boy, Harry said. It will be a sister, Luna whispered, her eyes glazed over slightly. Auntie Dora, how are babies made? What? No, I can't. I've heard the talk. She's not even interested in boys yet. Ask Uncle Mooney, Dora said smoothly before running out to throw up in the loo. He was a wolf in the shrieking shack. curled up on the floor next to his heavily pregnant mate, her pink fur sparkling in the moonlight. His mate's breathing is getting faster and faster. She was giving birth. He nuzzled her, encouraging her, then there as a strangled cry as a dead wolf cub came out. No. Once again the Lupin cottage was woken up by Remus's nightmares. Remus, wake up, it's just a nightmare, Dora said, gently shaking Remus. Dora, the baby. Oh God, the baby is dead, the baby. Remus, it was just a nightmare. Mum said the baby was a healthy baby, doesn't even have lycanthropy, remember? Remus opened his eyes to see Dora in her large t-shirt. Her hair in scarlet red and gold spikes, meaning she was in the middle of a dream about her school days. Dora, he whispered weakly. It was just a nightmare, Remus, Dora said, kissing his forehead as she stroked his hair. Everything will be fine, just go back to sleep. The next morning Remus woke up to find Harry, Hermione and Luna sleeping on top of him. Dora was uckling. They heard your nightmares and thought to comfort you, she said, standing up, her 5-month pregnancy showing clearly as the sun. I have a huge craving of custard, she muttered, heading towards the kitchen. Oh well, it's better than the morning sickness, Remus reminded himself. Now how do I get out of bed without disturbing these three? It's been 7 months since Dora found out she was pregnant. They were asked if they wanted to know the sex of the baby. They decided to be surprised, though Luna was convinced that the baby was a girl. Remus has digged out Luna's cot for the baby and had to move some of the furniture in the children's room to make room of it. And Dora was suffering with hormones and cravings. Remus, Dora whispered, shaking Remus slightly. Oh Remus. Not now, James the first need to sleep, Remus muttered, rolling round. Remus, I'm not James, Dora muttered. Sirius, Peter, Mum. Oh for God's sake, Remus, it's me, Dora. Nymphadora, he muttered, rubbing his face into his pillow. Dora grabbed her pillow and whacked him in the head. Ow, what was that for? Remus said, rubbing his head. You called me you know who and wouldn't wake up. For the last time, dear, I need sleep, and I swear I didn't mean to call you Voldemort. The last time I was having a weird dream where Voldemort was doing a strip show on Dumbledore's desk and Professor McGonagall was paying him with ducks. Quote. Anyway, dear, what did you want? Is the baby early? Oh God, it is. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Remus, calm down, I just need you to get me some Ben & Jerry's cookie dough ice cream. What happened to the chocolate brownie thing I got you yesterday? Our baby ate it. It likes its chocolate and now it wants cookies. It's already taken after you and it's not even born yet. Fine, I'll get some ice cream. By the time Remus got back, he found Dora sleeping with a large smile on her face and glittery blue hair landing on her waist. It was a warm July evening. July the 10th, in fact. Harry, Hermione and Luna were playing snakes and ladders with Dora while Remus was out getting takeout. Oh no, Luna whispered as she moved her play piece down the snake. Don't worry, Lou, you'll get back up soon, Harry said, but I was about to win, she whispered. Well, that's life, sweetheart, Dora said. I was going to be an Auror, but things changed. People only saw me as Sirius Black's cousin. So I swapped things around and ended up as Amelia Bones, secretary, but I have 2 lovely girls, 1 amazing boy, a gorgeous husband and a beautiful baby on the way. Luna looked puzzled. Dora sighed. Ignore me, sweetie, I'm being all emotional. There was a sharp jab in her stomach. Ah, is the baby kicking again, Mummy? Luna asked. The feel of liquid filling up in her underwear told her otherwise. Oh no, Dora said, trying to get up. Auntie Dora, get someone. I'm going to give birth. Dora gasped. Harry ran to the fireplace and Hermione ran to the phone. Very thing will be fine, Mummy, Luna said soothingly. Remus was running towards the maternal ward, jumping over a passing trolley, pushing people out the way. He skidded as he tried to stop in front of Ted. Whoa, Remus, calm down, take deep breaths, Ted said, holding the panting man up. How is she? Remus asked in between deep breaths. She's in the middle of labor right now, the kids are fine, there with Augusta Longbottom and her grandson in the tea room. Just get in there. The doors opened as a nurse went in. Remus, John Lupin, you better get in her before I kick your ass from here to Pluto. Really, Dora? Remus said, coming to her side. Bastard, she hissed. This is your entire fault, making me pregnant. First thing I'm going to do when we get out of here is to give you the snip-off. Just push, Dora. Andromeda said. I'm trying, Dora whimpered. You're almost there, just one more push. With all her might Dora pushed. There was a wail. Congratulations, you have a little girl. The family of 6 sat there on the hospital bed. The little baby in her mother's arms, Luna sitting on her right with Remus on her left. Harry and Hermione were sitting on Dora's feet, and the proud grandparents stood in the back as the picture was taken. Oh, congratulations, Minerva McGonagall said, placing the camera on the bedside table. I remember when Harry was born. Poor James had to have his bones mended. And when Hermione was born, Sirius fainted. Then when James was born, well, let's just say poor Charles almost had a heart attack. Remus smiled, remembering both Hermione's and Harry's birth. Minerva, we were wondering, would you like to be godmother? Oh, Remus, I feel honored to be godmother, Minerva said, tears welling up in her eyes. Speaking of the baby, Ted S. Aide, have you figured out a name for her yet? Yes, Dora said, smiling. Selene Lily Lupin. Author's note. Selene is the Greek goddess of the moon, Tihi. Please review and check out my challenge. Just send me a message whether you accept or not. Chapter 8. It's been 2 months since the birth of Selene, and over those 2 months the children learned the joys of parenthood. Every night Selene would wake all 3 of them up crying. When Remus and Dora stumbled in to sort her out, they would find all 3 children trying to calm her down. Remus, we must get a bigger house, Dora hissed one morning. After Harry fell asleep in his bowl of cereal. Dora, I know the cottage is small, but we could make it bigger. No, it's time the children made friends with other Wizardry children anyway. All of them hardly spend time with the other children here, especially now that Justin has moved back in with his parents. Remus looked thoughtful. You told Dumbledore that when the children were older we might move to St. Ottercree in Devon. Quote. Dora nodded. Well, if we ask him to find a nice big house nearby, that's cheap, I guess we could move. But I don't really want to sell the cottage, it's been in my family for centuries. Dora sighed. Remus, the Lupin cottage was originally made for the mistress of the head of family. The only reason the Lupins live here now is because your great-grandpa Arents got into debt and had to sell the manor. Yes, but still, it's the only thing I have left of my family. Dora looked thoughtful. How about if we rent it to Arabella? She's been complaining about having to live near the Dursleys and have no privacy. We rent her the cottage and you could always visit. Dora, do we really have to move? Remus whined like a 2-year-old. Yes, it's not fair on the children. They had only 2 decent nights of sleep. And that's on the full moon when they have their own rooms at Mum's. We knew this day was coming, Remus. Yes, but I was hoping it would go. Me 2 or 3 years later, Remus mumbled. Well, it's happening now, so get used to it. Dora then banged on the table, waking Hermione, Harry and Luna up. Come on kids, time to go to school. Auntie Dora, do we have to? Harry whined. Yes. Dora smiled. You know, Remus, you and Harry have a lot in common. It wasn't until Dora was walking down the street when Remus figured out what she meant. The Moonlight Manor was a large Victorian-era house just on the outskirts of St. Ottercree. It had 5 large bedrooms, a large dining room, 2 bathrooms, a medium-sized living room, a medium-sized kitchen and a large room on the ground floor that Remus baptized as the library. It was the Lupins' first day, and while Dora was unpacking hers and Remus' stuff, and Remus was somewhere under a large pile of books trying to arrange them in alphabetical order, and probably to hide his chocolate stash, Albus Dumbledore and Minerva McGonagall were decorating the bedrooms and unpacking the children's things. They had decorated one room in red and gold with a lion bed sheets on the bed and matching curtains for Harry. They decorated another room a pale purple, one side filled with books, another filled with dolls, with lacy white bed sheets on the bed and matching curtains for Luna and Hermione. Remus and Dora decided they should share a room so they could have a guest room for guests. For little Selene, they had decorated the ceiling to look like the night sky. The walls were pale pink and the carpet was a darker shade of pink. On each door they placed signs with their names on it. Luna, Hermione, Harry were playing in the woods under the watchful eye of their grandma when they heard sounds of what seemed like cottage. Let's sneak off and find them, Harry whispered excitedly. We might To meet a famous team or even better Wizardry children. We shouldn't leave Grandma, Hermione said. No, we should go, Luna said. We will make friends with them and be happy. She then walked off following the sounds off cottage. Harry behind her. Hermione sighed and followed just to make sure they don't do anything stupid, of course. They were met with the sight of 5 children playing on their brooms. With 3 children on toy brooms underneath them. A boy with red hair and glasses was reading in a tree. Hello, Hermione said. What are you reading? The boy looked up. Muggles, he shouted, using the children riding on their brooms to freeze. We're not muggles, Harry said indignantly, we're wizards and witches. Just moved in on the other side of the woods. The broom riders landed and the eldest boy with longish red hair held out a hand to Harry. Bill Weasley, he said, 4th year in Hogwarts, we've been allowed the weekend off, family emergency, Mum needed us to look after the younger ones, he said hurriedly as if he was worried that he would get into trouble for not being in school. This is Charlie, he's a 2nd year. The boy in the tree is Percy, these identical monsters are Fred and George. The boy that's roughly their age is Cedric Diggory, the boy with red hair roughly your age is Ron, the boy also probably your age is Neville Longbottom, and the little girl with red hair is Ginny. Bill took a deep breath. And you are? Oh, Harry said smiling. I'm Harry Potter, this is Hermione Black and the blonde one is Luna Lupin. You're Harry Potter, the boys whispered in shock. Yeah, why it's not that big of a deal, Harry mumbled turning red. Not that big of a deal. You defeated you-know-who, Bill said excitedly. Who? Harry, Hermione and Luna said looking confused. You-know-who, he who must not be named, the scariest and evilest wizard to have ever lived. Oh, you mean Voldemort, the 3 siblings chorused. Everyone flinched. You said his name, Charlie said looking impressed. Fear of a name increases the fear itself, the 3 siblings chanted. They sound a lot like Fred and George, Ron said. Hang on, what are the girls' surnames again? I mean they can't be your sisters. They're, Harry said shortly, were adopted. The bushy brown-haired one is Hermione Black and the blonde one is Luna Lupin, I told you before. Black, you mean Sirius Black, the traitor, Bill said. The children all shot Hermione glares. Hermione did not commit the crimes, Luna said, so why are you being mean? The children looked confused. Yes, they were thinking mean things but they didn't do anything. Lupin sounds familiar too, Bill said. Remus and Dora Lupin, they're our adopted parents. Me and my own call them uncle and auntie but Luna calls them mum and dad. Dora Lupin. Oh, she's Healer Tonks, daughter. Healer Tonks. Birthed all of us, Bill said. The 3 children nodded, when they heard a voice calling for them. We're over here, Grandma, Hermione shouted. There we sounds of running footsteps before a dark-haired woman came running out with a baby in her arms. Hermione Jane Black, Harry James Potter, Luna Marlene Lupin, don't you ever run off like that again. Why? Oh, you could have been killed or eaten or kidnapped. The woman pushed a lock of hair from her face and spotted the crowd of children. She smiled. Ah, I remember you lot, birthed each and every one of you. William Arthur Weasley, Charles James Weasley, Percival Samuel Weasley, Frederick Gideon Weasley, George Fabian Weasley, Ronald Bilious Weasley, Ginevra Molly Weasley, Neville Franklin Longbottom and Cedric Amos Diggory. You're Andromeda Tonks, Bill said in awe, the best midwife ever. Andromeda blushed faintly. I wouldn't say best but I have birthed the majority of this generation apart from the Malfoy heir. My sister didn't like the idea of my blood traitor hands touching her baby, well more like her husband. She took in the sight of Bill and Charlie. Shouldn't you two be in school? Family emergency. We're needed here to look after the children, Bill said. Andromeda softened. Yes, I heard about your grandmother and yours too, Neville. Neville looked down at his feet. Grandma will get better, he whispered. She's the strongest person I have ever met. Andromeda sighed softly. Augusta Longbottom didn't have long in this world. She and Cinderella Weasley were in a Muggle bus accident and suffered great injuries. How come you're here, Neville dear? She asked. I'm living with my dad's cousin, Marianne Lovegood, Neville muttered. Ah yes, Marianne, the poor girl, Andromeda commented softly. Marianne was a patient of hers. She recently found out she couldn't be pregnant ever. Well, we better be going, kids, she said louder. Bye, Luna, Harry and Hermione said. Author's note. I am very surper. ISED that no one has picked up on the clues I've dropped in on the last few chapters about Luna, but never mind, I will tell you soon. Please review and check out my challenge on my profile. Chapter 9. It was the end of the school term and the beginning of the Easter holidays when the next big chapter started in Remus's life. Dora was taking a nap, and so was his 9-month-old baby. Hermione had locked herself in the library and Harry was over at the burrow. Luna, however, was found in the dining room with the table set up like a tea party. Her wolf's soft toy, her favorite doll, Harry's stag Hermione's dog was seated on the other chairs. Hello Daddy, she said softly, would you like a cup of tea? Why certainly Lou, milk and 3 sugars, Remus said sitting down on the empty chair next to Luna. Moony, would you like some more biscuits? Luna asked the wolf toy. No Padfoot, you have already eaten a packet, keep it up and you'll be fat. Remus laughed silently at his 5-year-old daughter's antics. He accepted the imaginary cup of tea and took a sip. Daddy, why doesn't Neville have the same surname as Mr. and Mrs. Lovegood? Luna asked. Well sweetie, Zeno and Marianne aren't Neville's real parents. The girl blinked. Neither are you mine, but I still have your surname. Harry and Hermione don't have my surname. Because they aren't related to you by blood. Neville is Mr. and Mrs. Lovegood's cousin. Sweetie, all of you was war children. You were born in a dark time where people were being killed by a madman. It's important that children keep their parents' surname no matter what, kind of like a memorial. The girl nodded at the explanation. Sadly, last October Neville's grandmother died. Marianne had quickly accepted custody of the boy. She couldn't have children. Once she looked into a couple of orphanages for magical children but couldn't find any. Neville has become the nearest thing of her having a child. There was a ringing sound coming from the fire, alerting Remus to a guest. I'll go and find out who that is, Remus said, walking towards the living room. There stood Albus Dumbledore staring at some of the family pictures, his eyes twinkling. Hello Remus, he said softly. Hello Albus. What brings you here? Just thought to bring over the children's Easter eggs. I'm going to be visiting my brother for the holidays and I might not get the chance to see the children, Albus said cheerfully, handing a small sack that felt like it had a cooling charm on. Thank you Albus, I'll make sure the children will get these on Easter. Is Minerva still coming round for dinner? Yes she is. She can't wait to see the young children again, and I imagine that soon she'll spend all of her holidays here. Remus smiled. Well, more the merrier. There was a crashing sound coming from the dining room. Lou, what happened? Remus shouted, running into the dining room with Albus behind him. There stood a little 5-year-old girl in small trance, her china tea set broken on the floor. Luna, she looked up, her eyes glazed over and her voice dreamy. 4 brothers in everything but blood. 1 wolf, 1 stag, 1 dog and 1 rat. The dog betrayed by the rat, locked in a prison of despair, the stag in paradise with the love of his life. The wolf with children and wife, the rat near the wolf, traitor to all. The wolf will find the rat and the dog will come home. But when the fawn, puppy and cub grow up, things will come tumbling down. Luna blinked and smiled. Sorry Daddy, I went to sleep, would you like a biscuit? Albus smiled. It seems, Remus, that your lovely daughter is a seer. Chapter 10. Dora and Remus sat there opposite Albus in his office, listening to the prophecy once again. Well, it's obvious the 4 brothers in everything but blood is the marauders, Dora said. The wolf is Remus, the stag is James. The dog is Sirius and the rat is Peter. There was a faint twinkle in Dumbledore's eyes. How did you work that one, Nymphadora? Well, Remus is a werewolf, and the others were animaguses. Dora said. Something we should have told you a long time, don't ya think, Remus? Remus rubbed his ear. Yeah, sure, anything you say dear, he mumbled, sinking into his seat. Dumbledore chuckled lightly. Ah, you two remind me of Arthur and Molly, James and Lily, me and Minerva. Both Dora and Remus looked vaguely ill. Not that me and Minerva have ever done such a thing. Our relationship is purely platonic and would you like a lemon drop? Dumbledore boomed. Dora and Remus chuckled and accepted the lemon drop. Now I'm certain this prophecy is not the first Luna has made. Can you think of any other time? Luna knew that I was pregnant with Celine and that Celine was a she, Dora said smiling. She insists that we're going to get a dog then an owl and a cat. But we're not getting any pets till they go to Hogwarts, Remus said firmly. Harry wants an owl and Hermione wants a cat. So we said for their going away present they can, but that's going to be years. Back to the prophecy. I think this means Sirius is innocent, Dora said softly. Peter is out there and he betrayed us. Remus swallowed. It hurts too much to believe that sweet little Peter did all that damage, but it's the only conclusion I can come up with. What did it mean by the last line, do you think? Dumbledore said, his eyes twinkling brightly. The fawn is Harry, the puppy is Hermione and Luna is the cub. They are like their fathers, they'll get into a lot of trouble when they go to Hogwarts, Dora said quickly, grinning. Maybe, but I would like to keep an eye on young Luna, who knows what she'll predict. Maybe she'll help me win on the yearly bet on who will make what house. I never get to win that fire whiskey. Remus and Dora burst out laughing until they realized he was telling the truth. They were labeled the weird ones, the ones you shouldn't go near. They didn't care really, after all they had each other. It was the end of term in St. Ottercree's primary school, and the St. Udents were nervously edging past the small gang off a 5th 3 third years, 4 first years and 2 receptions. The girls couldn't deny that Cedric Diggory was cute. The students couldn't deny that the Weasley twins were funny. Or that Ron Weasley was brilliant at chess, Hermione Black was the smartest girl, Luna and Ginny were the most adorable girls, or Harry was the most loyal and Neville the most clumsy. But there was an aura of weirdness around them. The Weasleys live in a strange place called the Burrow. Luna, Harry and Hermione lived in the Moonlight Manor that was rumored to be haunted. Cedric lived in a manor labeled Badger's Hole and Neville lived in a large house called the Banana House. They were strange and the students kept away from them. Summer is here, Ron said happily. No more school or homework or annoying kids staring at us. Honestly, Ronald, school isn't that bad, Hermione said from behind her book. Whatever, Ron said. You are still coming to the Burrow for the party, aren't you? Of course, Luna said softly, staring at the sky. Harry said distractedly, reading a piece of paper. What have you got there, Harry? Neville asked. Just a letter from a pen pal, Harry mumbled. Our friend Justin, we met a couple of years ago, Hermione said. Harry looked back at the letter. It was short, but then again at the age of 6 heading on to 7 you don't write much. Dear Harry and Hermione, thanks for the letter. School is all right. I got a good friend called Terry Boot, he's very friendly. I don't like our school uniform, it's rather stuffy. Mum and Dad are taking me on cruise, it sounds rather boring. Moonlight Manor sounds wonderful, I wished I could spend the summer there instead. Send more pictures of Celine, she's adorable and I wouldn't say no to more of Mrs. Weasley's fudge either. Write back soon, Justin. Ron, do you think your mum will make some more fudge? Justin loves it, Harry said. Knowing Mum, she'll make a lifetime supply for your mate, George said. The kitchen in the Burrow was busy. Molly was cooking while Dora tried to help. Remus was feeding Celine. The Diggorys and Lovegoods were having a conversation with Arthur about muggles, and the twins were running about with Percy chasing after them. Give him back, Percy shouted, his face turning purple with rage. He's my rat. Moo. Fred, George, give me Scabbers, Molly said sternly. The twins pouted before they handed her a gray fat rat with a worm-like tail and a missing toe. Remus froze. He grabbed his wand and stunned him. Remus, Molly scolded him, but he ignored her. He waved his wand murmuring incantations and suddenly instead of a rat laid a small chubby man. Hello, Peter, Remus said softly, a tear spilling down his cheek. Chapter 11. Sirius Orion Black sat curled up in his cell. Everything that was good in his life has gone bad. His wife is dead, his friend and his wife dead. His daughter was probably being raised by his sister-in-law. His godson was probably raised by Lily's sister, a vile woman. He didn't want to think of the pain his cousins Dora and Andy were suffering, or the pain his best friend Remus was suffering. There was a sound of the metal bars slamming into the wall. He looked up to see Kingsley Shacklebolt and a pale girl with dark hair standing at the doorway. Today is your lucky day, Black, the pale girl said. Come on up, Kingsley sighed. Dee pulling him up. Are you all right, mate? He whispered in Sirius's ear. Sirius nodded, feeling confused. Why was Kingsley being friendly with him? Last time Sirius saw him, he punched him one. They took him away from the prison, took him into a small room and sent him into the bathroom to get washed. It was nice to feel and smell shampoo and shower gel. The pale girl sat him down and gave him a haircut and shave. She was smiling now. You look nice, she whispered, her cheeks slowly turning red. Why was she acting like this? She was acting like she liked him. Everyone thought he was a traitor. Why was she acting like this? Kingsley laid a dark blue robe on the bed for him. Hurry up, Black, we haven't got time. He put the soft material on him and sighed. It was nice to feel material. They took him to the ministry, to courtroom 10. And they sat him down, not in the defendant's chair but on the sidelines. The pale girl sat on his right. There was a small blur and a small girl with bushy brown hair clung to her. Is that my daddy? She whispered to the pale girl. Yes, Hermione, that's your daddy. Where's your uncle and aunt? They would be worried about you. We're right here, said a woman behind them. Sirius turned to see a pretty witch with black hair and emerald green eyes. Hello, Siri, she whispered, her hair suddenly growing pink highlights. Dora, he whispered. I see you've met my niece. C.E., she said, winking. Would you like to meet my nephew? My daughters. How about my husband? You're married, he said, feeling a smile grow on his face. Do I know him? I certainly hope so, Remus sighed. I would be worried if you didn't remember me. Mooney, you sly dog, Sirius said, his smile growing. A little boy with messy black hair and emerald eyes sat next to Dora. A small girl with long blonde hair and big blue eyes sat down next to him. A small baby with black hair climbed into Dora's lap. You already know Harry, Dora said, smiling. This is Luna Lupin and this little baby is Celine Lupin. Sirius chuckled lightly. He then turned serious. Dora, why am I here? Why are you two treating me nicely? Remus and Dora shared a smile. You'll see, they chorused. There was a bang and people in purple robes strode in and sat down on the high table. Another bang and a small man was dragged into a chair and was chained down. This is the trial of Peter Andrew Pettigrew. The date is 13th of July 1986. Sirius did everything he could to stop laughing. Chapter 12. The small cottage was covered in overgrown dark roses with large thorns guarding every window and door. The dog walked up to it, poking a thorn with his pad. The thorns moved out of his way and he pushed the door open and slipped in. The living room furniture was toppled over, baby toys scattered on the floor and the mirror shattered. Dust was covering every surface. There was a sound of footsteps and a man came from the shadows, a man with messy black hair, lopsided glasses and angry hazel eyes. The dog turned into a man. James, Sirius whispered. It's all your fault, Padfoot. I trusted you and you betrayed me. There were more footsteps and a pretty woman with tangled red hair and bright green eyes came in. Lily Black, she spat out. You traitor. Did you want my baby as well? Wasn't Hermione enough? What? Sirius asked, feeling confused. Another woman came in. Her hair was in brown curls and her eyes were dark. Juliana, he said breathlessly. His wife looked stunning. She was in her wedding dress. Bastard, she snarled. Why didn't you save me? Didn't you love me? Juliana, of course I love you, Sirius protested. Then why didn't you save me? She said. I couldn't, I was in Azkaban. I don't know who put the curse on you, Juliana, he said, his voice thickening with sorrow. More footsteps. Two red-haired men came in laughing. All right, Black, enjoying the life you don't deserve. One said. I don't think he is Fabian, his twin said. Selfish git, Fabian said. I would kill to be in his position. I know, Fabian, I know. Imagine the witches we could have pulled at the celebration parties, Gideon said mournfully. Another person came barreling in the room. Her hair was like golden thread and her eyes were deep blue. Her sea blue colored robes were torn. Sirius Black, you are a selfish, self-centered git who cares for no one but yourself. Do you realize how much you hurt Juliana? She hissed. The words haunted him. She said them to him when he was 17 and played a prank on Juliana. Marlene, he said. A family with red hair came in, giggling slightly. Hello, Sirius, the man said. Ring. A ring of roses. The children began to sing, a pocket full of posies. Atasku, Atasku, and we all fall down. The children collapsed on the floor giggling. The bones, Sirius mumbled. Ever wondered, what happened to my wife and little girl? Edgar snarled. Abandoned, haunted by the memories of their family being killed in front of them. My poor little Susie. 2 people came running in the room. Frank, Alice. Sirius said. Why are you here? You're alive. Our bodies might be but not our minds, Alice said. All your fault. You and your bloody cousin. No such thing as a good Black, they all chanted, again and again and again. Sirius opened his eyes to find himself in a small white bedroom, the sun spilling in from the small window. The bed was cramped. There was a giggle coming from the doorway. Sirius looked up to see a pretty witch with bright pink hair. Tonks, he muttered. Dora Lupin now Siri, don't you remember? She said. I do now. Sirius mumbled. Why is it so cramped in this bed? The kids heard you having a nightmare and came to comfort you, Dora said. They do it for everyone, it's very sweet. Sirius sat up slightly to see a bushy-haired girl snuggled against his waist, a messy-haired boy lying next to him. Small blonde girl and her dark-haired sister tangled on his legs. Would you like some coffee? Dora asked. Yes please, Sirius said. Let me free you from these little cubs. She walked into the room and then shouted, pancakes in half an hour, those that aren't washed and dressed will get porridge. Suddenly 3 bodies began to run really fast towards the bathroom. Dora picked up the small toddler and winked at Sirius. Chocolate or blueberries? She asked. Chocolate. If I remembered correctly, Remus made the best chocolate pancakes in the world. There was a crashing sound as Remus tried to get into the kitchen to make the pancakes. Good thing you wanted chocolate. Remus refuses to make anything else, Dora said. After breakfast, Remus Lupin's famous chocolate sauce. Banana and extra chocolate pancakes. Sirius sat there looking at the photo album of his school friends and people from the order. He could remember the children. Susan Bones, Neville Longbottom, the huge Weasley Broad, Cedric Diggory, Hannah Abbott, Ernie Macmillan, Blasey Zabini, and so many more that was affected by the war. He remembered his cousin Narcissa Malfoy. Little Sissy he called her. They were the same age. Narcissa was a surprise baby and Sirius was the expected heir. When Narcissa was 5, her hair was dirty blonde and her eyes were huge on her face, full of innocence. When they were 15, her hair was pale and she always seemed to sneer, making her eyes look small. When Narcissa Malfoy was 5, she looked a lot like Luna Lupin. Chapter 13. It's been 6 months since Melanie Warwick sat next to Sirius Black in the trial of Peter Pettigrew. 6 months of training and therapy. Sirius Black was ready to rejoin the Auror ranks. You see, I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this, said one of Melanie's flatmates, Serafina Clark, from behind her book. It's just a guy. See, that's your problem. You never understood the need to have a man, Sarah Bates said, pining Melanie's hair up. I did once, Serafina whispered before leaving the room. Don't you think that was a bit harsh? Melanie asked Sarah. No, Sarah muttered. It's been 8 years. She should go out and find someone. She loved him. Melanie reminded her. Yes, he was older. Yes, he was my cousin, but they were going to be married. True. The 2 girls sighed, remembering how carefree the young reporter used to be. Melanie knew Serafina since they were 5. She came from a pureblood family that was sorted into various houses. It took half an hour for Serafina to be sorted. She ended up in Gryffindor. The war hit the girl hard. Her fiancé Fabian dead, her siblings and cousins dead. Serafina rarely saw the elders of her family. She preferred to spend Christmas with Melanie and Melanie's last living relative, Molly Weasley. Anyway, Sarah said. Sirius Black. Melanie's pale face colored into a faint pink. What about him? She said calmly, applying lip gloss on her lips. You fancy him. You spend 1 day in his company and he is the only thing you can talk about for 6 months. According to Serafina, you saw him in the burrow last Christmas and spent the whole time hiding in the pantry watching him. She told you. Melanie said angrily. She promised not to. She sighed and picked up her eyeliner. There's something about him that draws me in. I have always been like this around him, even in Hogwarts, and he's a good kisser, she added as an afterthought. Sarah chuckled. Yes, you went on about that game of spin the bottle for weeks. It wasn't until Sarah Fina threatened to hex your lips shut that you stopped talking about it. Sarah slipped in the last pin in Melanie's hair, completing the elegant bun. When I think about it, Serafina is right, we D'n't really make such a big deal out of this. I mean, men aren't really worth it. Melanie stood up, eyeing her red t-shirt and black jeans before slipping on her aura robes on. Yes, she always been right about that. But don't tell her that we agree or she won't let us live it down. Sarah smiled before slipping on her healer robes on over her skirt and blouse. I still say she's pissed off with Rita Skeeter. The first half of Sirius's day in the Auror headquarters was quiet. He woke up early to Remus's chocolate pancakes, a hug from all of the children, and then he talked to Andromeda as she took Eileen for the day before going in with Dora. Dora promised to meet him for lunch, but unfortunately some paperwork got in the way and he has to spend lunch alone. Sirius quickly raced to the nearest baker's where he picked up a pasty, a cake and a drink. He was halfway to his cubicle when he heard muffled giggles coming from one of the cubicles. He stopped and turned to see two girls eating burgers. One was the pale girl from the trial and the other was a stranger who was dressed in complete black and had wavy brown hair. Sirius Black, the wavy brown-haired girl said calmly. She put her burger down and held her hand out. Serafina Clark, reporter for the Daily Prophet. I was hoping you could do an interview with me. You won't make things up or bring up the fact that my family has a dark heritage, will you? He snarled, remembering the many times he was stalked by Rita Skeeter. Serafina looked disgusted. I'm not Rita Skeeter. Anyway, don't you trust an old member of the Order? She said. Sirius now remembered Serafina, or Sarah as Fabian called her. She was a Gryffindor. Sirius only remembers her sorting because it took half an hour and he was incredibly hungry at the time. She had a brother in Hufflepuff and a sister in Gryffindor. Her cousins were both in Ravenclaw. Serafina, Melanie and Sarah were a trio to not mess with. Sorry Sarah, it's been a long time, but I don't do interviews, he said. Fair enough, she said. Her eyes were far away. Maybe calling her Sarah was not the best idea. However, will you do me a favor? Anything, Sirius said, anything to make up the fact her fiancé is dead and he did nothing to save him. Will you take Melanie here out on a date so I can have some peace? Melanie began to choke on her burger. Sirius grinned. Why not? Chapter 14. Sarah Ba. Tay was pulling out the tray of freshly baked cookies when the front door was wretched open and Serafina came running in. You didn't see me, she said, snatching a couple of cookies before running into her room. Melanie came running in immediately. Where is she? She screeched, her face turning purple in anger. Sarah shrugged. Sarah, Melanie said, raising an eyebrow, if you tell me, I'll do all the dishes for a month and steal you some chocolate from Serafina's secret stash. Don't you dare, Serafina shouted, coming out of her room. Melanie cackled. Always works, she muttered before tackling Serafina. The two wrestled, occasionally bashing into Sarah's feet. All right, Sarah shouted. The pair of you stop it before you have one angry Hufflepuff on your hands. The girls froze and shuddered. At the memory of the last time Sarah was angry, they still haven't gotten rid of the scorch marks off the ceiling. Now what is going on? Sarah said. Serafina asked Sirius Black to go out with me tomorrow night and he said yes, Melanie said, glaring at the witch. He said yes, Melanie Warwick is going out with Sirius Black, Serafina shouted gleefully. Serafina, don't you remember the last time I went on a date? Melanie said. Sarah and Serafina exchanged looks before bursting out in laughter. It's not funny, Melanie said. Best night shift I ever had, Sarah said. Imagine my surprise when I was asked to fix someone's nose back on because his date got nervous and vanished. It. Remember the eyebrow incident? Serafina said. Yeah, I'm still searching for that half of an eyebrow, Melanie muttered darkly. This is why I rarely apparate, Serafina said, grinning. Sirius Black sat his daughter down. This was rather nerve-wracking. He has only been in her life for 6 months and he's about to date a new woman. He didn't consider his daughter's feelings. What if she hated Melanie? My own sweetie, Daddy is going to go on a date with this girl, he said calmly. It's our first date and I don't know what's going to happen. For all I know, it's just one date or a bit more. Hermione blinked and smiled. Just one date, she repeated. If you like it, you will go on another. Sirius nodded. And if you like that one, another. And eventually, if you like it so much, you will marry her. The girl kept smiling, as long as I get to wear a pretty dress in the wedding I'm fine. Sirius choked. He didn't say wedding, did he? Luna said there'll be a wedding, Hermione said. Moony had to adopt a seer, didn't he? Sirius thought. Well, Luna might be imagining her own wedding, he said out loud. What is this girl like? Hermione asked. Well, she's pretty, brave, smart, and she's a friendly person. What does she look like? Well, she has snow-white skin, dark hair and dark eyes. Hermione smiled. Good luck. On your date, Daddy, she whispered before kissing him on the cheek and skipping out of the room. He knocked on a door painted in red. There was some shouting coming from inside and then the door opened. Sarah Bate answered. Ah, hello Sarah, is Melanie ready? He asked. She will be in a minute, Sarah said. Come in. She pulled him in and pushed him into a chair. I'll get you some cookies, you look like you need fattening up, she muttered. Ouch. Sirius jumped. Hold still, Melanie. Serafina's voice snapped. It hurts. Melanie was protesting. Well, sorry, maybe this will teach you not steal from my chocolate. Stash. Serafina grumbled. There was a sound of a zipper and then one of the doors opened to reveal Melanie in short, low-cut and rather tight red dress. Her shoes were black and in her hair was a red rose hair clip. Wow, Sirius said. You look beautiful. Melanie blushed. Sirius offered her an arm and she accepted it, her cheeks growing redder and redder each second. She smelled like peaches. Shall we, milady? He said. Certainly, sir, she said, her lips twitching. Good luck, Sirius. I hope she doesn't hex your eyebrows off. Serafina called. I'm going to kill her when I get back, Melanie grumbled. The date went perfectly. They went to a small Muggle restaurant and then had a butterbeer in the leaky cauldron before calling it a night. Melanie managed to not hex anything off, however. She did trip over a crack on the pavement, much to Sirius's amusement. Sirius walked her back to her flat and they stood outside the door. Well, goodbye, Melanie said, looking at her purse. Yeah, I had fun. Maybe we should do this again, Sirius said. Saturday. Melanie asked. Can't I promise to take Hermione, Harry and Luna out flying? I would love to meet them, Melanie offered. I can help keep an eye on them. It's been months since I have flown. Sirius gave her a crooked smile. Sure, he leaned in and kissed her on the cheek. We'll meet you in Hogsmeade at noon. That will give me plenty of time to wake up properly, Melanie joked. Thank you. She was about to open the door when he grabbed hold of her face and kissed her gently on the lips. No thank you, Sirius said before leaving. At the T-point, Melanie collapsed against the door. Behind it, Sarah and Serafina giggled. They just happened to be listening to what was happening outside. They opened the door and pulled the girl in. I tall. Du, she would faint. Sarah said. That's a galleon you owe me. Sirius made his way in to see Dora and Remus waiting up for him. So, Dora demanded. How did it go? It went well. We had dinner in a Muggle restaurant. Then a butterbeer in the leaky cauldron. She enjoys Muggle music, flying and drawing, and hates Crouch and Fudge. She's coming with me on the flying exhibition with the kids this Saturday, Sirius said, grinning. So what's this about you dating Snow White? Remus said. I didn't know comatose girls enjoyed Muggle music, flying and drawing, and hates recent politics. Sirius blinked. Who's Snow White? He asked, feeling confused. He was only met by laughter. Chapter 15. Despite the cold December air, it was an incredibly sunny day. Perfect for flying. Melanie Warwick brought 3 tea chocolates for the children and coffees for her and Sirius. Here you go, kids, Madame Pudfoot said. However, the only suitable place for those treats was Madame Pudfoot's A Pink Nightmare. And another disaster date for Melanie in 5th year. One that Serafina and Sarah will never let her live down. Thank you, Snow White, Hermione chirped. Thank you, Your Highness, Harry mumbled. Thank you, Melly, Luna said. The children have taken to you, Sirius commented. Yeah, but being called Snow White is not my cup of tea. Serafina likes apples. Maybe she'll play the fairy princess part for them. Sirius snorted and took another sip of his coffee. I remember Sarah now, he said. She's a shadow compared to what she once was. You shouldn't call Sarah. That was what Fabian and Gideon called her. Sari was what her younger siblings and cousins called her. And if you called her Finey or Fina, she will dissect you, Melanie said. Sirius sighed. The war has taken its toll on everyone. Would you like to spend Christmas with a Snow White? Hermione said. Daddy would love it, Luna told me. Both Melanie and Sirius turned bright red. Moony and Dora will never let me live this down. Serafina and Sarah will never let me live this down. Luna blinked and giggled. Here comes the bride all dressed in white, she sang. It was early April and invites to the minister's birthday party were sent out, families like the Bones, the Malfoys. The Lupins and the Blacks were invited. Members of the ministry like the Aurors were also invited for security reasons. Children were also invited to show that the minister likes children and to win more votes. You girls look gorgeous, Sirius said cheerfully. Melanie and Dora took Luna and Hermione and dressed them up in new dresses. Luna was in pale blue dress with matching hair ribbon. Hermione was in a navy blue dress with matching hair ribbon. Melanie wore a low-cut blood red gown that Sarah picked out for her. Personally she wouldn't wear it, but Sarah practically tied her to the chair. Dora wore a bright pink dress that matched her pink spikes. You look rather spiffy as well, Melanie said smiling. Sirius did look nice in his dark gray robes, Moony in his pale brown robes and Harry in his emerald green. Dora sighed. I wish the sleazy's hair potion worked on Harry's hair as well as it did on Hermione's. Remus and Sirius cackled. It never worked on James's, Remus explained. Dora rolled her eyes. No wonder Lily was furious when she realized Harry had inherited James's hair. They touched the invitation and was suddenly pulled by their navels. They landed in a grand marble foyer. Welcome to the minister's mansion, a butler said in monotone. Please follow me to the ballroom. The stiff man led them into a grand ballroom. The minister greeted them, in an annoying fashion. Hello, you must be little Harry, he said cheerfully. Harry however edged closer to Remus. He's a little shy, Remus said. Maybe it has something to do with living with werewolves, a squeaky voice said loudly. Madam Umbridge, Dora said stiffly. Ah, the wolf's bitch, Umbridge said spitefully. Remus, is it me or is that piece of candyfloss walking and talking? Sirius said. Melanie snorted. Umbridge was wearing a hideous pale pink puffy gown. Her mousy brown curls even had a small diamond tiara decorating them. It was like she was the queen of the ball, though it was no secret that Umbridge was the mistress of Fudge. Poor Mrs. Fudge was a delicate woman with white blonde hair and big green eyes. She looked like an ill child or a china doll in her cream robes, hardly the belle of the ball. Melanie scanned the ballroom. Amelia was dressed in canary yellow robes clutching a hand of a red-headed girl roughly Harry's age dressed in forest green. The Malfoys were dressed in silver and Green were in a deep conversation with Amelia who looked rather nervous. Narcissa Malfoy was defiantly the belle of the ball. Her pale blonde hair, which looked darker than usual, was piled upon her head. With a green rose on the side, her gown was a sleeveless green silk with a silver corset and overskirt. Her empty blue eyes were no longer empty, they were filled with a mix of love and pain directed at Luna. Hang on, Luna. Chapter 16. Luna Lupin flushed the toilet and then immediately went to the sink to wash her hands. Besides the sink were many expensive soaps and perfumes. She selected the lavender soap and began to wash her hands. When she finished, she dried them on a warm cashmere towel and pulled her hair ribbon out. She brushed her hair with one of the hairbrushes left in the bathroom and redid her hair. You're a very pretty girl, a woman said. Luna turned round to see a beautiful blonde woman sitting on one of the small sofas. Her eyes were wide as her own. She looked like a child. Luna smiled. Thank you, miss. What is your name, sweetie? The woman asked. Luna Marlene Lupin, miss, the girl replied. The woman smiled sadly. Lovely name, she whispered. She patted the seat next to her and Luna sat down next to her. My name is Narcissa, she said. That's a pretty name, Luna said. Their eyes met. Empty sad blue eyes met the vibrant and calm eyes. Luna. Dora peered round T.He corner. There you are, sweetie, she said. Mummy, this is Narcissa. Narcissa, this is my mummy, Luna said. Narcissa and Dora stared at each other. Aunt Sissy, Dora said stiffly, you won't know me, but I am your niece Nymphadora Andromeda Tonks Lupin. This is my eldest daughter Luna Marlene Lupin. Luna, this is your great-aunt Narcissa Elizabeth Black Malfoy. Narcissa looked down at the floor. There is no need for formal introductions, she muttered. She looks young to be an aunt, Luna commented. Yes, I was a surprise baby, Narcissa said. By the time I was born my sister Andromeda was 14 and Ella was 16, betrothed to her husband. I went to school with my niece. Luna dear, we're leaving, it's late. Yes mummy. Luna held out her arms for her mother to pick her up. As Dora did her hair earned blonde. Jesus honey, you're getting big, she said. She didn't see the hurt look on Narcissa's face. Once again the months flew by and it was September. Hermione was now 8, Harry 7, Luna 6 and Celine 1. And this month became an important chapter in their lives because it was the month when Melanie Warwick officially became part of the family. Sirius and Melanie were taking a walk through the village when Sirius stopped. What's wrong? Melanie asked. Nothing. Sirius said quickly, it's just. After Juliana I thought I could never love another woman like this again. Melanie looked up, her eyes filled with tears. She remembered the nightmares Sirius still has of his deceased wife. Melanie, I have fallen in love with you. I love everything about you. You're compassionate, kind, intelligent, funny and beautiful. And I want to spend the rest of my life waking up with you beside me. Will you do the greatest honor and be my wife? Sirius went down on one knee and pulled out a small black velvet box from his pocket. He opened it up to show a beautiful blood-red ruby in the middle of a cluster of diamonds. Yes. Yes I would love to, Melanie said quietly. Sirius grinned and slipped the ring on. He picked her up and spun her around. He then kissed every inch of her face. I love you, I love you, love you, love you, love you, he whispered in between each kiss. I love you too, she whispered back, a huge smile on her face. Hermione looked up from her book to see Melanie standing at the doorway of her bedroom. Hello Melly, she said pleasantly, marking her page. Melanie was extremely glad that the children have outgrown calling her Snow White. Sarah and Serafina still haven't let her live it down. Can I talk to you? Melanie asked, slowly entering the room. Of course, Hermione said, beginning to smile. Hermione, your father asked me to marry him and I said yes, Melanie began. I don't want to replace your mother and you can keep calling me Melanie. I just want us to be friends for now. Hermione got up and hugged her. Melly, I don't remember having a mother. Daddy is the only parent I have and I am willing to share. After all, I have Uncle Mooney and Aunt Dora. Daddy told me he was going to propose and I wanted him to. Melly, could you be the mother I never had? Could I call you Mummy? Melanie was shocked that this sweet little girl wanted her to be a mother to her. She expected tantrums and arguments, not this. However, she felt honored that this little girl had asked her, and she had respect for the little girl. I would be honored to be your mother, Hermione, she whispered, slowly stroking Hermione's hair. Author's note. What to look forwards to in the next few chapters: Luna's crush, Sirius and Melanie's wedding, Narcissus. A is showing her face again and someone is pregnant. Please review and for the love of God someone look at my challenge. Chapter 17. It was the last day of January in the year 1988, and the Lupin Black Potter household was in an uproar. The next day would be Luna's birthday and the day afterwards would be the wedding between Sirius and Melanie. Dora, Sarah, Serafina, Marianne Lovegood, and Molly W. Easley were having Melanie's hen night in the Moonlight Manor. And then she saw him walking up the path. Wretched, the cupboard door opened, threw Serafina in and ran in quickly, peering through the crack. Molly said, giggling. Her face red from the amount of alcohol she had consumed. I can still feel the bruises, Serafina muttered darkly while rubbing her side. It could have been worse, Dora said. You could have landed on an umbrella and have sticking through your side. Marianne snorted. That's nothing. In Hogwarts I got sick of Zeno not realizing my feelings that I grabbed hold of him and pushed him into a broom cupboard. Problem was his foot got stuck in a bucket and we had to go to the hospital wing. Dora laughed. I remember that. You two had a huge argument about it at dinner and when you shouted, I fancy the pants of you. You fool. He pushed you onto the table and began to snog you senseless. McGonagall had to get a crowbar to spilt you up. Everyone cackled while draining the last of their oak mead. How did you get with Remus, Dora? Melanie asked, interested. Dora's hair turned a mixture of red and pink. Well, you see, I always fancied Remus, and I was 14 when we got together and... Well, I stammered a lot, asked him to Hogsmeade, he thought I meant us and Sirius and Peter. So the four of us went and I tripped over a Slytherin and they were saying some nasty stuff, He got defensive and well it kinda came out that he fancied me too. Ah. The women cooed. What about you Molly? How did you and Arthur get together? Molly flushed slightly, bit like Maria. I pushed him up against a wall and snogged him senseless. My younger brothers weren't pleased about it though. Which brings us to Serafina, Melanie said softly. Serafina looked at her hands. Ays thought he was funny and nice. She whispered, he was only 3 years older. I was 16 when we danced at the Clark's Yule Ball, and we began to write to each other. The following summer he went down on bended knee. We were going to get married after I graduated, but first my family was killed, then we joined the order, and then finally he died. Tears were streaming down Serafina's cheeks. Sarah pulled her into an embrace. It's all right to cry, Serafina, she whispered. The next day was Luna's 7th birthday. She sat at the head of the table surrounded by children singing her happy birthday as she blew out the candles of her cake. She then opened the presents. She was given many dresses and toys from her relatives and friends, however there was one left. That's odd, Remus said. We already opened a present from everyone we know. Dora shrugged as she passed a large box wrapped in silver wrapping paper and shiny black ribbon to Luna, who sat it on her lap. She slowly opened the box to reveal a china doll. This china doll had dirty blonde curls and big wide blue eyes. She wore a gold and cream gown with matching shoes. Upon the doll was a note. This was mine when I also turned 7, please take care of her. Happy birthday and many returns. N. Everyone stared at the note in confusion, however Sirius was frowning. I remember that doll, he muttered, but where? It wasn't until late at night when Sirius woke up from a dream. Happy birthday cousin, he said stiffly, holding out a box wrapped in emerald green with a silver ribbon. Thank you cousin, Luna said. Only it wasn't Luna. Luna never stood so posed. She never looked so cold and she never wore the finest silks. Well go on Narcissa, open it, a young woman said, her lips curling. Aunt Walburga always made sure we got the finest things for our birthdays. The girl placed the box on the floor and knelt down to unwrap it, her green silk dress being crushed under her weight. She ripped the wrapping paper off and took the lid off to reveal the china doll that looked just like her. Oh wow, she said. Thank you Siri, she said beaming. Thank you Siri, the woman mocked. Shut up Bella, you're just jealous, Narcissa said, sticking her chin out. Bellatrix threw her head back and laughed. Jealous? Why should I be jealous of you? I have everything I want, and one day the two of you will be just the same. Not if I can help it, Sirius muttered. Narcissa sent that doll. Luna looks like Narcissa. Sirius may not have been the brightest boy in his year, but he was not stupid. He pulled out a piece of parchment and began to write using one of Hermione's pens. Narcissa, I need to speak to you of a matter of importance. Please meet me at the church in Godric's Hollow at 10:30. You may stay for the ceremony if you wish to. Sirius. Now he only needs to wait for his cousin to meet him in the morning. Chapter 18. The 2nd of February had finally arrived. In the back room of the church, Melanie sat down looking paler than usual. It's going to be all right, hun, Sarah said, fiddling with the strap of her bridesmaid dress. Yeah, Melanie whispered. You look fantastic, Serafina said, placing the veil on Melanie's head. Don't worry about a thing. It's just, his wife is buried here. And, what if he doesn't really love me? What if I'm just a replacement? Melanie Laurel Warwick, you are not a replacement, Serafina scolded. We've met Juliana, remember? She's nothing like you. Sirius is marrying you because he loves you. Besides, you're only getting married in this church because Lily and James got married here and Sirius wanted to honor them, Sarah said. You're right, of course you're right, you've never been wrong, Melanie said. Usually I would agree with you, but I rather not take advantage of our mental state, Serafina said, grinning. Sarah glared at Serafina. That was not nice, she snapped. Mel, we brought you a little gift. You have. It's not much, but we thought you should have it. Sarah handed over a small parcel. Melanie ripped it open to see a small charm bracelet. There was a dog charm, a book charm, a lion charm, a badger charm, and a small blue crystal heart charm. Wow, she whispered. The dog charm represents Sirius, the book Hermione, the lion me, the badger Sarah, and the blue topaz it for the something new, something blue, something old, something borrowed thing. Serafina said, "It's beautiful." Melanie said, "Thank you." Narcissa took a deep breath and looked at her reflection. She was wearing simple blue robes, nothing fancy, no lace or silk. Just a simple blue cotton robe thrown over the only Muggle clothes she owns. She had her hair in a ponytail, everything looked plain and boring, and no one would pay attention to her. She apparated to the church and found herself a seat in the back just next to Hagrid. She always liked Hagrid when she went to Hogwarts. He always made a cup of tea for her and they would chat for a bit. The music started and two little girls walked down the aisle in dark red dresses throwing red petals onto the floor. One of them was Luna. A little boy followed holding a pillow with the rings on, concentrating hard, his messy black hair ruining the smart look. Then came two women in red dresses, after that came the bride. The bride was beautiful. Narcissa approved her cousin's choice. After all, the Warwicks were a descent pureblood family. The woman's dark hair was done up in an elegant bun with a white veil on top. Her dress was a simple white thing that was easily identified as early medieval style. Must have been a family inheritance. She held a bouquet of dark red roses. The ceremony was short but beautiful. One of the bridesmaids gave the bride away. Remus Lupin played the best man well and Sirius gave the bride a romantic kiss when the man said, "You may kiss the bride." It was nothing like her wedding wear. It was long and tedious. And at the end Lucius gave her a stiff peck on the lips. After the photos were taken, Sirius spotted her and dragged her away. "Cousin," he said stiffly. "Hello cousin," she replied. "I believe you have something to ask me." "Yeah," he mumbled. "You look strange in Muggle clothes and plain robes." Narcissa felt her lips twitch. "You asked me to come to discuss my wardrobe." "No, I asked you to come to discuss Luna Marlene Lupin," Sirius said. Narcissa suddenly found her shoes interesting. Quote, "Please tell me cousin the truth and nothing but the truth when I ask, is Luna your biological?" "Yes," Narcissa snapped before he could finish the question. She was still staring at her shoes. "Is Lucius?" "No," she snarled. "Who is?" "I honestly don't know," Narcissa whispered, looking ashamed. "It was a one-night stand deal. The Dark Lord sent me to the Monk's room. He never took his mask off." "Sissy." Sirius started pulling her into an embrace. Narcissa accepted it, not wanting to let her cousin see her cry. "Didn't your husband stop it?" Narcissa let out a bitter laugh. "Lucius doesn't care, after all. I just gave him the heir he wanted after 3 long years of marriage. She gave the Dark Lord full permission to give me to one of those death munchers. Then he had to go on business for a year. I was pregnant, so after the baby was born, I left her somewhere in London hoping someone will take care of her away from the magical world. Then I found out she was in hospital, and for those long 6 months I sat there watching her under a disillusioned charm." She wiped her tears away and looked up to her cousin. "I know I wasn't the best person in our Hogwarts years. I was weak and keen to impress my mother. But I am begging you to take care of my little girl, to not pass judgment on my son who is under the influence of my husband. To forgive and forget me. Sissy, as the Black family head I can annul your marriage. I won't give you Luna back, but I can save you and your son." "No, Siri. The Dark Lord is gone, but if he comes back I will take up your offer." She threw herself at him, giving him a long hug. "Go back to your wife, have fun and make lots of black heirs. But please let me send presents to her, let me watch her from afar." "I will, Sissy, I promise." And at that Narcissa disapparated, leaving him alone. Little Luna sat on a table near the dance floor watching the couples wistfully. Her father and mother were dancing, so was Melanie and Sirius. Serafina was trying to teach Harry how to dance. Hermione was dancing with one of the twins and Ron was dancing with Ginny, concentrating on his feet. In Hermione the dance floor turned ice white and the people on it turned younger or older. Harry was roughly 14, looking rather nervous yet dashing in his bottle green dress robes. He was slowly dancing with a red-headed beauty roughly his age. Across the dance floor Hermione was looking elegant and beautiful in her blue dress robes. She was dancing with a handsome man. Ron Weasley looked awful in his lacy robes and he watched them jealously. Fred and George looked even older than Harry, Ron and Hermione. They were dancing in a crazy way with two beautiful girls. Neville looked lost as he tried not to step on his dance partner's feet. Cedric Diggory looked charming and handsome. He walked up to her and held his hand out to her. Luna. The spell was broken and Luna was back at the wedding reception. She blinked to see Cedric standing in front of her. "Hello, Cedric," she said softly. "Luna, I was trying to get your attention for the past 5 minutes. Are you okay?" "I am fine." "Right. Would you like to dance?" She smiled pleasantly. "I would love to." He took her hand and pulled her onto the dance floor. They began to dance with the slow love song. When Luna felt a bit hot and flushed, her heart was beating faster. Why was she feeling like this? And then it came to her. Heavens, I have got a crush on Cedric. Chapter 19. The month after the wedding was pure bliss. There was no trouble from any area of life. However, that pure bliss had to end sometime. Melanie stood there by the door fiddling with the object in her hands. How do I tell him? How would he react? How would Myone react? "Sirius," she said. He looked up and smiled. "Yeah, beautiful, where have you been all day?" "Oh, nothing much, just went to Serafina's, then to a chemist and then street Mungo's to check that the test was right." "Oh, nothing much, just went to Serafina's," Melanie said. She got into a huge fight with Sarah and Sarah has moved in with her mum." "What did they fight about?" "Not quite sure, I think it had something to do with the shower, chocolate and Dumbledore's pink frilly knickers." "Both aren't making any sense." Sirius choked. "Dumbledore's pink frilly knickers?" He asked. "When us 3 fight we bring up everything. And when we wear 14 Serafina dared Sarah to steal Dumbledore's underwear. Let's just say he doesn't like boxers or briefs, shall we?" Sirius let out a bark-like laugh. "I'm going to have to remember that the next time Dumbledore gets on my nerves." Melanie took a deep breath. "Sirius, I have something to tell you," she said quickly. "Oh, and what's that?" "I'm pregnant," she said quickly. "Sorry, could you repeat that? I swear I just thought you said you were pregnant." Melanie took another deep breath. "Sirius Orion Black, I am pregnant with your baby. I am 2 months along and the baby is due in September." Sirius blinked. Then he immediately fainted. Meanwhile, the children were playing at the banana house. "I think we should play weddings like Melanie's and Sirius's," George said. "That way we can embarrass you," Fred said, giving a little evil L. Ow, the younger children plus Cedric raised their eyebrows. "We just want to try this old wedding ceremony thing that we found in an old book," Fred said quickly. "And here was me thinking the pair of you have gone insane," Harry joked. "Oh, but we're just hiding it well," George said. "Now we're written down the people we want to marry. I was thinking Hermione and Ron or Luna and Neville," Fred said. "Are Harry and Ginny or Luna and Cedric? Are Harry and Luna or Neville and Hermione? Or Cedric and Hermione or Neville and Ginny? Are Cedric and Ginny or Ron and Luna? Or Cedric and Harry or Ron and Neville? Or Cedric and Neville or Harry and Ron? Or..." "Okay, we got the bloody picture," Ron shouted, looking disgusted with the last few suggestions. "Let's do a vote," Hermione suggested. Everyone wrote down a couple for the twins to marry and handed it to the twins. "And the winner is..." Fred started. George began to do a drum roll. "Harry and Ginny." Both Harry and Ginny went white. "Who? Why? Sorry, Harry, but you two would look sweet together," Hermione said. "Same reason, mate," Neville said. "I voted the same too," Ron mumbled. "Don't look at me, I voted Ron and Hermione," Cedric said. Gee," Luna said, blinking. "You two are perfect for each other." Both Harry and Ginny flushed. "But enough of that," Fred said. "Let's begin this. George, bring out the stuff." George pulled out a piece of rope. "Right then, face each other," Fred commanded. Both Harry and Ginny did as he said, not looking at each other. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the life of Harry James Potter." "Oi!" Harry snapped. "Sorry, mate, but Ginny has a temper to rival you know whose. Do any of you object to this?" Everyone raised an eyebrow. "We voted on this, remember," Cedric said. Okay, George tied their wrists up. Harry and Ginny found their wrists bounded together by the rope. "Say your vows," Fred said. I, Harry James Potter, take thee Ginevra Molly Weasley as my wife. To honor and cherish. To love and obey. And to. Protect. I, Ginevra Molly Weasley, take thee Harry James Potter as my husband, to honor and obey. to love and cherish till death do us part, Ginny said quickly. Fred began to chant something and the rope glowed gold before it disappeared. I pronounce you man and wife, you may kiss the bride. Harry suddenly looked mortified and Ginny went bright red. Go on, Harry, Ron said. Harry bent down and quickly pecked Ginny on the cheek. The group of friends cheered. Sirius woke up to find himself on the floor with Melanie hovering above him. Pregnant with a baby? He asked weakly. Well, nah, I'm pregnant with a hippogriff, Melanie said sarcastically. She then whacked Sirius on the head. Of course, a baby. Sirius grinned. He then pulled her on top of him. Well, Mrs. Black, we should celebrate, don't you think? He began to snog her senseless when Remus walked in. For God's sake, not in my library, Sirius. Go and reproduce in your bedroom, Remus snapped. Bit late. For that, mate, in 7 months you're going to be a godfather, Sirius said. Remus blinked. You have better not have shagged on my desk. Well. Oh, for Pete's sake, Sirius. Before Remus could begin his rant, an owl flew in with a letter for Sirius. The three of them stared at it before Sirius got up and took the letter. Dear Mr. Black, since you are legal guardian of Harry James Potter, we thought to send you a letter to say congratulations of the marriage of Harry James Potter and Ginevra Molly Weasley, and that the new Mrs. Potter has been added to the vault. Sincerely, Ragnarok, head of Gringotts. E3 stared at each other and distantly they could hear Molly Weasley screaming. Author's note. Well, that was unexpected, wasn't it? I will go into more detail about the marriage when they are older. For now, Harry and Ginny are going to think it was a game. Chapter 20. I can't believe a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old got married, Professor McGonagall said. Actually, in a few months Harry will be 8 and Ginny will be 7. Everyone gave Sirius a dark look, but who's counting? He added quickly. What actually happened? Dumbledore asked, looking grave. Well, Fred and George found something in a silly old book and wanted to try it, Arthur said. Minerva groaned. I am dreading to have those monsters in September, she muttered. I mean, experimenting with something. Oh, and your little sister and a 7-year-old. They used an old binding. Something that hasn't been used since the times of the founders, Remus said. Occasionally an old pureblood family or a Muggle Wiccan groups use it. Sirius rolled his eyes. They still do. Bellatrix used it for her wedding. Narcissa, however, is smarter than that and had a normal ceremony. Andromeda used a Muggle one, I think. Actually, I and Ted used this one, Andromeda admitted. We got married near the Forbidden Forest before we graduated so Mother and Father wouldn't be able to split us up. Minerva began to bash her head against the desk. Are all my students corrupted in some manner? She muttered. But the question is, Headmaster, is what do we do about it? Molly asked, looking worried. I mean, we can't exactly announce it to the world, can we? Dumbledore took a deep breath. Ginevra's surname is now Potter, however we can put Weasley on the register, letter and so on. We don't tell anyone. I have already written a letter. The goblins have sworn to keep this a secret. However, this binding will slowly develop and after a traumatic event they will begin to hear each other's thoughts and feel each other's feelings. And EY would never be able to love or kiss another person, just each other. Well, if anyone has to take my baby away, at least it's Harry, Arthur said. Such a polite boy, he obviously inherited it from Lily. Headmaster, when should we tell them? Sirius asked. We can't keep this a secret from them for too long. I reckon we tell them after Harry's 13th, Dora said. That way you can also give him tea. He birds and the bees talk while you are at it. It's agreed then. Dumbledore asked. The group nodded. Splendid. However, I want us to all sign this contract, and if any of us break any of the clauses, well, let's say it's not pleasant for the face. Before I sign anything, Sirius said, what's this about pink frilly knickers? To Remus's, Dora's, Andromeda's and the Weasleys' shock, Minerva began to giggle insanely and Dumbledore turned bright red. The following months have been hell for Sirius Orion Black. When Juliana was pregnant with Hermione, she cried a lot and spent the whole time researching pregnancies. Melanie was very, very different. When she got mad, Sirius was either slapped, set on fire or hexed, sometimes all three. When she was sad, she would slap, set on fire or hex Sirius. When He was happy she was a hyperactive child. When she was horny, well, nowhere was safe. It had gotten to the point where Sirius believed he would be sleeping on the couch for life. It was September the 1st, and as a favor for the Weasleys and the Diggorys, Sirius took Percy, the twins and Cedric to the platform. Remus was at work preparing for the school year. Dora was also at work. The Lovegoods have gone on holiday. Mrs. and Mr. Weasley had some business to do. Ron, Ginny, Hermione, Harry, Luna and Celine were at the zoo with Andromeda and Ted. Melanie was spending a peaceful time at the Moonlight Manor. She was reading a romance book that Serafina had recommended, when she felt a pain in her stomach. Ouch, she mumbled. Are you boy that likes to play muggle sports or something? She rubbed her stomach and went back to her book. There was another pain and suddenly her knickers were soaked. No, 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 she chanted under her breath. Not today of all days, she bled to the fireplace and threw flow powder into it. Serafina, please, are you there? She gasped. Mel, what's wrong? Serafina, the baby is coming. Sirius is not here. I'm on my way, she said. Move back. Melanie stumbled back and allowed Serafina to come through. She pulled her up and dragged her into the fireplace shouting, "Street Mungos." Sirius was on his way to the office when a howler flew into his hand. What the? Sirius Orion Black, you get your ass into Street Mungos now before I come and hex it off. Melanie is in labor. Crap, Sirius said, running towards the nearest fireplace. Bollocks, shit. Fucking hell, he said, running to the maternal ward. Yes sir, can I help you? One of the matrons asked. Yes. Melanie Black, where is she? He panted. Over there, the matron said, pointing to a door where screams could be heard. Sirius ran in there to see Serafina and Sarah helping Melanie, who was screaming. Almost there, hun, Sarah said. One more push. All 1 meter. Or push you in a minute. Melanie grumbled. There was a snapping sound and Serafina screamed. Melanie, that's my hand you've broken, she screeched. Melanie screamed and then there was a wail. Congratulations, you have a little boy. Melanie dropped the book she was holding during the whole time. In the end she named the boy Tristan after the male character in the book she was reading, Tristan Fabian Black. Serafina had tears in her eyes when she heard the name. She was named Godmother and Remus was named Godfather. Chapter 21. 2 years went by with no problems. 2 years went by with no problems. Celine was now 4, almost 5. Tristan almost 2. Luna 9 and Ginny almost 9. Ron was 10 and Harry and Neville was heading towards 10 and Hermione was almost 11. As time went by the differences grew. Hermione's hair went wild and bushy, and she began to read a book a day. Harry was becoming a remarkable flyer but still read zoology texts. Luna's power as a seer was developing slowl. Why, and she still hasn't grown out of her doll obsession. Neville was now interested into plants. Ron's skill as a chessman was developing. He had in fact between Remus numerous times. Celine was beginning to learn how to fly and Tristan was becoming aware of his surroundings. Happy anniversary. Everyone cheered, clinking glasses. Thank you, Zeno said cheerfully. Marianne and I would like to thank you for coming. We also would like to thank the gods above for giving us the chance to raise a remarkable little boy. And I also want to thank Marianne for being the most wonderful wife I can ever have. From me and Neville I give you these. Zeno handed Marianne a bouquet of sunflowers. She gasped in delight and threw herself onto her husband and adopted son. Sunflowers, she said. We wore them at our wedding. They are so beautiful. Didn't they wear them at our wedding as well? Sirius muttered to Melanie, remembering the shock they got when Zeno Lovegood turned up in nothing but sunflowers and yellow boxers. Shish, Melanie said. Meanwhile Harry Potter, Hermione Black and Luna Lupin were sitting behind a tree. Harry, truth or dare? Hermione said. Dare. I dare you to kiss Ginny. What? Oh come on Harry, we all know you have a crush on her. Luna said. Yeah but. And we all know Ginny has a crush on you. Hermione said. She does not. Go on, Luna said, pushing Harry. Or are you a chicken? Hermione said, grinning. I swear you're bad as Padfoot. Harry grumbled, getting up on his feet. But if I do this, Hermione has to kiss Ron and you, Luna, have to kiss Neville. Why should I kiss Neville? Luna said. I don't fancy him. Yes, well, Cedric isn't here as he, and marauders stick together, Harry said, pulling his younger sister up. Fine, she muttered, but I don't like the consequences. Harry and Hermione shared a look as if to say what consequences. Harry ran up to Ginny and quickly pecked she on the cheek before running off. Hermione did the same to Ron and Luna to Neville. Ginny, Ron and Neville touched the skin where the former three kissed, looking dazed. The adults shared a look and laughed. I never thought my own would have the guts to kiss Ron, Dora said, passing a mug of hot chocolate to Remus. Harry and Luna corrupted her, Sirius said flatly. My baby girl shouldn't be kissing boys. Chill out, Sirius. Hermione has a little crush on Ron, that's all. By the time she's in Hogwarts it'll be over, Dora said, shoving a mug of hot chocolate in front of him. I wonder why Luna kissed Neville, Melanie said. Maybe she has a crush on him, Remus suggested. No, she doesn't. I know who she has a crush on, Melanie said. Remus spat out a bit of hot chocolate. Say it, don't spray it, Moony, Sirius said, wiping the hot chocolate off his face. Who does she have a crush on? Remus stuttered. Cedric Diggory, Melanie said. He's too old for her, Remus said flatly. Dora and Melanie merely rolled their eyes. Neville, sweetie, I thought I told you not to come up here, Mar. Jan said gently, looking up from her cauldron. Sorry, Mari, Neville muttered, but I have finished watering my plants and thought to help you. Mary Ann smiled. No thank you, sweetie, she grabbed a jar. Without looking, I'm working on a potion to improve the wolfsbane, that way Remus could be able to speak in his wolf form. She opened the jar and poured something in. Suddenly there was an explosion and Mary Ann was thrown across the room. Mari, Neville shouted, running to her side. Mari, wake up, please wake up. Mary Ann opened her eyes. Shish, sweetie, don't cry, it was probably my time, she whispered, trying to reach out to Neville. It was all my fault, I shouldn't have distracted you, Neville sobbed. Goodbye, my little boy. Mary Ann closed her eyes again and her body went limp. It was hours until they were found, and by then Neville was tucked into a little corner whimpering. Author's note. A dark ending for the chapter, I know, but this event was what made Luna Lovegood the way she was in my opinion, and since Neville was being raised by the Lovegoods, why couldn't it affect him? Please review. Chapter 22. The funeral was short but sweet. The funeral was short but sweet. There was a few all speeches and a Muggle song was played. Neville could still hear it in his head. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. It fitted his cousin perfectly. She was always bright and cheerful, according to Zeno. She always helped out in the aftermaths of battles in the war, handing out hot chocolate, blankets and cheery smiles. Her grave was covered in sunflowers, her favorite. The grave was a simple white marble. The inscription read, Here lies Mary Ann Summer Lovegood 1959-1990. Beloved wife and friend, may she always shine. Neville practically lived in his greenhouse. Zeno in his office. It wasn't until Mrs. Weasley pulled them out and gave them a lecture. It didn't work, so in the end she came in every day, leaving meals out for them. They always ate in silence. The summer went quickly, and so did the autumn, and the winter. And then the spring. Neville and Harry had turned 11 when the letters arrived. Remus and Dora decided to take Ron, Hermione, Harry, Neville and Luna shopping. Luna Lee wanted to come because she's been saving up for a book she's been wanting. The shopping trip itself went without a problem. When they went to Gringotts they bumped into Hagrid, who was holding a grubby package. When they went to Madame Malkin's for robes they bumped into a vile boy called Draco Malfoy. When they got their wands Ollivander said something about Harry's wand being the brother of Voldemort's. Then he added something about Neville's. Curious, how this one has a wand eerily similar to Mr. Potter's, isn't it? Harry made a mental note about that. They got their books and parchment and Yules when Remus and Dora stopped outside of a pet shop. I believe we have a promise to keep, Remus said. An owl and a cat. Harry and Hermione flew in, searching high and low for their new pets. Harry found a snowy owl with amber eyes that he promptly named Hedwig. Hermione found a large ginger cat with a squashed face that was already named Crookshanks. Then September the 1st came. Mrs. Weasley was attempting to wipe the dirt mark on Ron's nose. Ginny was crying. The Weasley twins' friend set his tarantula on a girl and Percy was shouting himself hoarse. Goodbye, son. Zeno said, giving Neville a one-armed hug. Send me an owl as soon as you can. Will do, Zeno, Neville promised. And don't lose Trevor. Your great-uncle Algie would be heartbroken if you do. Goodbye, my own, Melanie said, pulling the bushy-haired girl into a hug. Don't let the snakes get you down. Right if there's any problems, and keep Harry out of trouble. I will, Hermione promised. Sirius picked up Hermione and whirled her round. Listen up, Padfoot Jr. The Weasley twins have given me and Moony the map last year. We want you and Harry to have it. So play lots of pranks, get great grades in Transfiguration, and do your mothers proud. I promise, Hermione whispered. You too, Prongslet, Sirius said, ruffling Harry's hair. Dora and Moony directed the four onto the train. Be good. But not too good. Make Snivelus life hell for me. Good luck. Luna blinked. Be careful, Harry. There's something in Hogwarts that may cost you your life. Author's note. The end. Thank you all that have reviewed. Please do one more before I can even think of doing the sequel. I had a great time writing this, and though it is short and sketchy near the end, I will try to work on the Hogwarts years better than this. Trust me, I have lots planned. Evil laugh. Okay, I'm done rambling. Review. And for the love of God, check my challenge out and send me a message.